All right. Welcome back. The Darrell Brooks trial, day 4 afternoon session. Um, the morning was brutal, if I'm honest. That last witness on direct, it was hard listening to her testimony. Uh, just as a refresher, she's the dance teacher, and she was testifying about her students being hit by Mr. Brooks's car and their injuries. Um, and she's clearly traumatized. She was in tears throughout her testimony. And now he gets to re traumatize her on cross examination, which I don't think is going to be fun to watch at all. It's an unfortunate necessity of our judicial system. So, right before sending the participants off to lunch, after excusing the jury, Judge Doro gave Mr. Brooks some homework, which is the homework that I've been begging for him to do all week. And she instructed him to read Rule 908 of the Wisconsin Rules of Evidence, which is the hearsay rule. I'm not holding out any hope that he did his homework. And if he did, I don't think there's any understanding. But as Judge Doro told him, his hearsay objections have been so far from the mark that, frankly, if I had kept making that frivolous objection, I would have been sanctioned by now as an attorney. But he's pro se, he gets a little lenience, and but Judge Doro did say, you your objections, you don't have to win your objections, but you have to have a good faith basis to make the objections. And frankly, 80%, 90% of Mr. Brooks's objections haven't had a good faith basis. 1 or 2% have been sustained. I mean, and it's just it amuses me. Welcome, Charles. They are still at lunch. I couldn't remember if she said they were returning at 12:25 or 12:30, and I said I was going to return 5 minutes before them, but I couldn't remember exactly when. So I figured it's best to be five minutes early on my part than 5 minutes late. So um, we'll find out in a minute if I remembered right or not. But yeah, so I found it amusing that when Judge Doro chastised Brooks for making bad faith hearsay objections and told him to read the rule, he complained, "Well, how do I know that the prosecution has been making good hearsay objections?" And as I've repeated throughout the trial, that's a you problem. It's your responsibility as a pro se litigant to know the rules. And if the prosecution has been asking hearsay questions and you're not objecting properly, that's on you. It's waived just because you don't understand it. And I hope the red Ford Escape Charles is hasn't turned into a black hole due to the density of the driver to suck innocent victims in. I think that's his only defense is he's so dumb that his density formed a black hole. And it's possible she said an hour 15. I thought it was an hour, but I could be wrong. And it, the prosecution could object to almost every question in good faith. They wouldn't get all of them sustained, but sometimes he's asking questions that they could object to, but they're harming his case. Um, so you never you never let your opponent or you never complain when your opponent is making your case for you. Um, so it gets to the point though where they object just because he's so repetitive that in the interest of time they've just got to shut him down. But they're going to let the witnesses continue stating, yes, I was struck by the red Ford Escape. Yes, I suffered this injury. Yes, I saw the red Ford Escape continue driving through the parade. Um, so even though lots of these are would properly be objected to as asked and answered, let the witness state again that, hey, you did this. But if it's done for an abusive reason or if it's sovereign citizen quackery, just shut him down. She Judge Doro, like I said yesterday, she seems to come in every day with a blank slate as far as her tolerance of his nonsense. And she lets him go on longer in the morning as far as who's the plaintiff? Do you know the plaintiff? Does this plaintiff tickle you behind your ear at night? But by the end of the afternoon, she doesn't allow it to go as far. And she also shuts him down faster with civilian witnesses than with professionals, as in police officers and firefighters. Um, I mean, with this dance teacher, I can't imagine her letting him go beyond the second abusive question. She's going to shut him down fast because she's clearly traumatized this witness. I feel so awful for her. She's still hurting. I would guess she's still in therapy. I'd still be in therapy from this. Um, I don't know if her students are still healing physically. Um, 11 months isn't a long time. Especially, you know, let's say a dancer tore her ACL in this attack. To get back to dancing, 11 months might not be long enough. Um, so I would guess there are, even aside from the obvious emotional impacts, there's still physical impacts being felt by the victims. Um, no, Charles, they can't delay his appeal. I'm not sure what the rules are in Wisconsin, as far as the procedural rules of appeals, but generally they're going to have he'll have to file his appeal within a certain amount of time, and then the state will have a certain amount of time to file a responsive brief, and then a certain time before they argue it, and then um but unlike death penalty cases, there shouldn't be endless appeals allowed. I'm sure he'll file frivolous appeals from now until the day he dies, but he should have right to counsel on his first appeal, but after that,
Right, we will
it's all going to
go
be
back on
handwritten
the record
gibberish.
then. In State versus Brooks, appearances are as they were this morning.
And we're
Do we
back in
have
court.
Ms. Gajewski available. All right, bring her in and we'll bring the jury in as soon as she's up here for her cross-exam.
State that I do consent to that name, nor do I know any individual by that name.
That's still irrelevant.
Your lack of consent is noted for the record. All right, Ms. Gajewski, if you would please make your way back to the witness stand. And as soon as you are there, I will have the jury brought out.
In spite of
go
her
ahead.
tears, this witness
On the
has
record,
shown
before the
such
jury comes
strength.
out, I would like to direct Your Honor to a case United States versus Cotton,
Mr.
535.
Brooks, if you have a motion, you need to put it in writing and then I will address it. I'm not going to
Bringing up case law as the jury is walking to the
Asking me
courtroom
to reconsider something,
isn't
you need
timely.
to follow the
This is
proper procedure.
ridiculous.
What is the proper procedure? Your
To
Honor?
file a written motion, she said.
I've told you repeatedly what a motion is, so. And if it's a reconsideration, 806.07
Open
is
your
the
ears.
statute I would direct your attention to.
It's not a reconsideration. It's just bringing up the subject matter jurisdiction again.
That is
Sir, I've already
reconsideration.
dealt
She's
with this
ruled on it.
repeatedly, so any further times you want me to address it, you need to put it in writing for the court to consider a proper motion with the relief that you're requesting, the legal basis, and the facts upon which you are relying.
I have that here, Your Honor.
This isn't the time for
Not
it.
just
You
simply a
haven't
case, I want a
submitted
motion.
a written motion.
I've
She
put in
says she
several motions that
requires
have
a
yet to
written
be
motion.
answered.
I've already addressed them. The jury's on its way out. I'm not going to delay the start of this cross-examination for this argument yet again.
It's
I've
not an
already
argument.
addressed it. The fact
He's
that
a
it's the afternoon
child.
doesn't mean I need to address
It's
it
not
again.
an argument.
Jury's coming
Everything's
out.
an
It's gonna
argument.
continue to be brought up. It's going to continue to be brought up, Your Honor. It hasn't been
And it's
proven that
going
you
to
have jurisdiction.
continue
This
to be
court has
shot
jurisdiction.
down.
I think
She
it's
has
relevant.
ruled. She has jurisdiction. Stop. And
Subject
whining
matter
as the
jurisdiction
jury's
can't
walking
be
into the
forfeited or
room
waived. You know that.
just makes you look even worse.
By not answering, Your Honor.
Please, the jury's coming out.
By not answering, Your Honor, you are agreeing to attack
No,
the
she's
agreement.
not.
Is that a judicial
That's sovereign
determination that you
citizen
don't have to
nonsense.
answer?
Oh, not responding to me means you are agreeing. That's not how it works.
I'll take that as a yes.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
You can take it as a yes. The court's not taking it as a yes.
All right, Mr. Brooks, you may question the witness if you have any questions for her.
Okay.
I don't consent to being called that name as I
Who
stated
cares?
before.
Who cares what you
Note
consent
that, like
to?
that
The
noted for the
defendant
record.
can question the witness then.
Okay, buckle up. I think
Is that
this is
noted
going
for
to
the
be
record,
rough.
Your Honor?
Ask your questions, please.
Is it noted for the record, Your Honor?
She doesn't have to answer your questions.
As you testified to earlier, you were present at the Christmas parade on November 21st of 2021. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Do you remember about how long you intended to be at the parade?
Just until we finished the route.
Welcome, Static. Good to see you again.
It was a few exhibits that you stated on record that you weren't familiar with seeing. Would that be fair to say?
Once clarified, I did say that I remembered seeing them.
So you saw those videos before today?
Yes,
About how many times do you recall seeing them before today?
just once.
Preparing for her
Do you recall who showed
testimony.
them to you?
Yes.
You stated for the record and for the jury?
Can you repeat that?
Can you state who showed you the videos for the record and for the jury?
Everything she says is
yeah,
for the
state.
record.
And who would you be referring to when you say the state?
The three seated next to you.
The prosecutors.
Are you referring to the opposite table next to me?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that. She
It-
identified the
She said
three
you
prosecutors sitting.
you don't need to say that.
No objection.
The record will so reflect.
She wasn't
you recall
pointing,
knowing
she
if you would
identified them.
possibly be called to testify.
Yes.
Were you expecting to testify?
Yes, I got a letter in the mail.
Do you recall if that letter was a subpoena?
Yes, it was a subpoena.
This is such a ridiculous line of questioning.
You frequently refer to the vehicle as the car. Do you recall those statements?
Yes.
So for
That's
clarification,
standard usage. You don't
what
always
type of
clarify
vehicle did you see that day? Was it a car?
the
It was
size.
a Ford SUV.
And how were you able to determine the make
She
and model
saw
of
it.
the vehicle?
Objection. The witness did not describe the model.
Grounds.
She did say Ford.
Overruled, she may answer the question.
So when I first saw it, I made a point to figure out what car it was, not the license plate. And I knew it was either that an Escape or a Mercury. And then as the vehicle got closer to me, I saw the Ford emblem. That's how I knew it
A
was
Mercury
a Ford.
being an upscale Ford. But the blue oval is
And
pretty
during those
distinctive.
determinations of the make and model of the vehicle, did you catch a description of the driver?
No, I did not.
Any reason why you would be more focused on the make and model of the vehicle instead of who was driving the vehicle?
Charles,
I can't tell you why.
a douchebag has a
Made
purpose.
sure I knew what the vehicle was.
And you didn't try to see if you can spot a license plate at any time.
It all happened way too fast.
So would it be fair to say that it happened fast enough for you to not be able to make out the model and make of the vehicle,
No, I knew exactly what it was.
but not exactly who was driving the vehicle?
No, I
She
did
already
not
said.
look who was driving it, just the make.
You stated that you observed some girls from your dance team in the hospital. Would that be fair to say?
Yes,
And you stated that a few of them were laying on the ground.
yes.
Any idea why they would be laying on the ground? In
Probably
the
because
hospital?
the hospital
there
was
was so many
overfilled.
people, there wasn't enough room, so people were
You
standing,
hit more
sitting,
people than
and
the
laying on
hospital
ground
could
'cause
treat.
The rooms were overflowed.
Were they being attended to at that time?
Nope, because there was too many people.
It was a mass
Did you recall feeling
casualty
like maybe they
event.
should have been attended to,
Who
seeing as how they may have been
who
seriously
cares?
injured?
This
The
isn't for her
nurses
to
were
answer.
attending to who needed it.
Do you feel the
Immediately.
hospital
nurses
did
were
a good
doing
job?
The best they could.
So it would be fair to say that the girls that you observed on the ground weren't of immediate concern to the nurses at that time.
At that time, they weren't.
There were people who were God, I just can't.
Were you injured in any way during this incident?
I was not.
And you testified earlier to the approximate speed of the vehicle. Do you recall what your answer was?
Yeah, about 55 miles per hour.
And how were you able to come to that determination?
For observation.
Because I've drove for a couple years now, and that's just the number that came to my head. Because when I drive, I know what 55 feels like, and I know what 25 feels like, and that was just my best guess.
So it would be fair to say that you were making an assumption. You didn't know for sure.
She
Nope.
didn't
Yeah, that
see
was
your
just my best guess.
speedometer.
You made a reference to a young woman by the name of Sam. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And what relation do you have to Sam? Is she just part of the dance group or close friend or?
Yeah, she's part of the dance group, but I became super close with her ever since I started working there.
Do you recall seeing her struck by the vehicle?
No.
She just fell down on her own. It's not his fault.
Do you remember where she was at the time that you saw the vehicle pass you?
Yes, she was on the front left side. If you're looking towards the truck that was in our group, she was on the left side in front, first girl.
Would it be fair to say that from that angle that you would be able to see her if she was struck?
I was turned the other way. She was behind my back.
So you don't know for sure where she was at when the vehicle passed you?
I do. She was in her formation.
She was
that I
in the
had put
direct
her in.
path of the vehicle.
Do you know if anyone was standing there or in that position with her at that time?
She has her own spot, and there was girls behind her and next to her, but she would have been the only dancer in her spot.
No one on her shoulders?
So it would have been people in her general area, but not directly next to her.
Yeah, they have space in between all of them.
His questioning has tended to be abusive, I've thought.
Do you remember what you
It
did
doesn't
immediately
serve his
after
defense
the vehicle passed you?
90% of the
I
time.
ran to Alice.
It's
and
just
I picked
abusive.
her up immediately.
In regards to your dance team, did you observe anyone struck?
I just remember seeing bodies in the air, but I can't say I remember seeing a vehicle hit them. I remember seeing bodies in the air and on the ground.
But she probably can't guess what caused
So
them to be in
at
the
that
air.
point, it would be fair to say that you didn't know if the people that were on the ground or in the air or whatnot were in fact struck by a vehicle.
Well, I did know it was the vehicle because I turned around and I saw the vehicle coming towards them. And then I think I blacked out
They just fell down on
until
their
they
own.
actually were in the air and on the ground.
It's not his fault. They just fell down and
By
sustained
blacked out, what do
serious
you mean by
injuries.
that? State that what that means for the jury and for the record.
So I can't see anything, but I can hear.
She was in
it.
shock.
So when I say blackout, I mean I can't visualize it, but I can hear it happening.
Was that the first time that you ever had a blackout?
Yeah,
It was probably the most
So it's never
traumatic
happened
thing she's
before that
ever
day.
never.
experienced.
Any idea what caused it on that occasion?
No. Stress, shock.
It's just he's dragging it out so much, Static, that it's not saving any time. I think it was you that said the other day, he must be getting better lunches at the courthouse than the jail, and so he's trying
And you
to drag
stated
it
that
out,
You got into
get that good food.
a ambulance and with someone who was struck and then left the
I
parade
believe
at
she
that
said it
point?
was in a
A
squad
squad
car.
car, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, a squad. You left at that point.
Yeah.
Do you recall about what time that was?
No.
Exactly, Charles. I mean, what he's
Do you
saying
recall how long you were
isn't
with
testimony,
the person being transported
but
at that time?
the jury's still hearing
No,
it.
I wasn't worried about time.
They're still judging him on every single thing he says, and it's not helping. Even Howard Hamlin behind him hates him.
Do you recall if anyone was walking directly next to you at the time of the incident?
I was walking next to the girls on my team that got struck.
Do you recall walking next to Sam or Sam walking next to you?
No, she was behind me.
Do you recall making the statement that, and this is, I'm guessing, in a summary report?
You're guessing.
Detective Schwartz. Do you recall being interviewed by Detective Schwartz?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you recall making a statement that Samantha was walking next to you?
No, I don't recall that.
I mean, they're a dance troupe. They do move around. This is ridiculous.
Do you recall making a statement that you did not have enough time to tell Sam to move?
Yes.
And this was the same Sam that you just testified that you did not see struck, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I didn't see her hit.
Which, once again, goes to show it all happened real fast because you were flying down the parade route.
So it'd be fair to say that you made the statement that you didn't have enough time to tell her to move, but didn't actually see what happened to her.
Asked and answered.
Because she was on the same side as me, and that's why I was saying I didn't have enough time to tell her to move, but I wasn't next to her.
Any idea what may have stopped you from being able to see what happened?
She had her back turned. She already
because I
said.
blacked out.
At the point that you blacked out, at that point, you didn't see anyone struck. Would that be fair to say?
I hate him.
I don't remember exactly the vehicle hitting, but I just remember bodies flying. I think I kind of try to block it out.
Do you recall making a statement that everything happened so fast,
Yes.
but not fast enough for you to identify the vehicle?
Nope.
Well,
I remember
not
exactly what
fast
the
enough
vehicle was.
for you to identify the vehicle. That's
Do
what the
you
hell was that
recall if the
question?
vehicle had any damage at that point?
I was only paying attention to what kind of make it was because I could see
Probably
the
had damage from hitting
body of
people.
it was an SUV. And like I said, I thought it was either the make with the Mercury or a Ford. And so I was just paying attention to the emblem when the grill got closer and I saw it was a Ford. I wasn't looking for any damage.
The jury's going to see the
About how close would you
vehicle
estimate
in
the vehicle
person
came to
at a
you?
secure location.
I don't know.
Did it get close to you?
I don't know. I blacked out.
Do you remember what side of the road you were on when you blacked out?
Yeah, I was on, if you are looking at the truck, I was on the left side. So if you're walking in the parade, I was on the left side.
Which is roughly the side that he drove down.
But I had turned around, and
If
so
I
I was
understand.
on the right side because I was looking at the vehicle.
So at what point did your memory go fuzzy?
So I turned around and I saw a car or an SUV.
And bodies in the
I
air.
told myself, "You're crazy. You don't see that." And then all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I can hear it, and then after, I remember seeing the bodies. So I would say I blacked out from when I saw the vehicle to after it passed.
Any idea how long that may have been, roughly, if you recall?
A
Second.
second.
So pretty much like the snap of a finger.
Yeah, because it went by so fast.
And from your recollection, that was quick enough for you to miss anybody being struck.
I blacked out, so I didn't see them physically get hit.
Outside of Detective Schwartz, were you interviewed by any other law enforcement?
No, I only gave that statement, and that was it.
What about at the hospital? Were you interviewed at the hospital?
No, I was not.
Did you call yourself to make a report about what you saw that evening?
No, I went and gave the statement right after I left the hospital, and that was it.
She said she gave one statement.
Did you do any follow-up to see if your report was received by anyone in law enforcement?
Of course it was received. Law enforcement took the report.
Did anybody from law enforcement contact you about the statement that you gave?
Seriously. Well, I mean, how is this helping?
Do you recall at any time reading or seeing a complaint in this matter?
No.
Why would she? She's not a litigant in this. She's
Do you
not
recall at any time
a lawyer.
filing any claim in this matter?
No. Are you saying with the police department?
Claim is
Yes.
pretty vague.
Yeah, no, I just gave a statement and that was it.
Would you consider yourself a party to this matter?
Objection. Relevance.
Grounds.
Relevance,
Sustained.
and it's a legal conclusion.
On relevance grounds.
It definitely is helping the prosecution and hurting
Do you
him
recall if
badly.
you were contacted by the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Grounds.
He said relevance.
Overruled.
Stop it.
Can you say who the plaintiff is?
Well, that's what he's trying
I'm
to get
asking
out of
Are
you.
you aware of the plaintiff? Were you contacted by the plaintiff at any time?
I don't know what the plaintiff is.
She's not a
The
lawyer.
plaintiff would be
Don't you testify.
whoever is bringing the claim for the charges. in the
Stop
matter.
it.
So
Stop
not,
him.
Then,
Objection, objection, objection.
Yeah, what, you were contacted by the plaintiff?
Objection.
She answered yes. I'll ask her grounds.
An objection, hold on.
Objection. Move to strike
Grounds,
legal analysis
grounds.
and the
It
defendant's
calls for a
testimony.
legal conclusion. He said the
I'll
grounds.
sustain the objection. I'll grant the request to strike the question and the answer for the reasons given by the state. You may rephrase if you'd like.
He won't rephrase properly. He's a sovereign citizen, Static. They don't believe in insurance.
Who were you contacted about testifying?
The prosecutors.
And that, I'm assuming the state of Wisconsin, correct?
I just know them as the state, right there.
Right there, as in referring to the prosecution table,
Correct.
to let the record show that
She already
She identified
identified
the
them
state as-
earlier. This is repetitive.
the three attorneys at the prosecution table.
No objection.
Record will still reflect.
He already did that earlier in her testimony.
And do you recall having a conversation with the state?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that
No.
you would identify the state as the plaintiff in this matter?
That's a legal conclusion. She doesn't
Sustained.
know.
Have you ever had any interactions with the plaintiff
Stop.
in this matter?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Sustain.
Shut him down.
Do you see the plaintiff in the courtroom today?
Shut
Same
him
objection.
down.
Sustain.
Do you even know if there's a plaintiff?
Same objection.
Grounds.
Come on, Judge.
Sustain.
Come on, Judge. You can do it. It's time. This witness does not need his badgering.
So as far as you know, in your opinion,
She
Who would you
can't
say
give
is the plaintiff
opinion
in this matter?
testimony.
Objection.
grounds.
Sustained.
Opinion testimony is for expert witnesses only, first off. It calls for a legal conclusion. It's irrelevant.
Were you present at the parade with any family that day?
No.
They're victims. The state is the plaintiff. The victims sometimes disagree with the prosecution going forward, but once again, the state brings the case. It's the state's case. They control it. They have all met with a victim coordinator or witness coordinator in addition to
And
the
when
prosecution.
You visited the hospital
and they've been well
How did you
prepared.
learn of the injuries to any of your dance team?
She observed them. She was told about them.
Which hospital are you referring to?
Um,
She was at multiple hospitals. She
I
was at
heard you
Memorial
say
Hospital and Children's Hospital.
Memorial. You might have said two. I think you said Children's one time too. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's correct.
I guess I would be referring to Memorial.
So the only injury, well, not even injury, I only knew Julia had
The temptation would
something
be there,
wrong with her
Charles.
brain at the time because they
I
saw
believe she's
spinal
the one
fluid
that
coming
was
out of her nose.
having seizures.
And were you told that directly from a doctor?
I heard them freaking out and rushing her to a CT scan because I was right next to her, helping them as she seized and vomited.
So you overheard from the nurses what the diagnosis was.
She just said.
What about for Sam?
Are you referring to the night of?
Yes, when I'm guessing you saw her at some point.
You're
that
guessing?
night.
I did not see her that night.
Did you see her at any point?
I did. I was
At any point
there
in
at
the last
hospital
11
the
months?
first day she was able to have a visitor.
And were you told directly by medical professionals at that time that you were
That
able to
would
see
be
her? any
inappropriate,
possible injuries?
generally.
I wasn't told by them. She actually called me.
Can I strike that answer for hearsay?
No,
No,
it was responsive to your question.
But the answer was hearsay.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, the question.
I mean, Amber Heard's attorney objecting to his own question. You asked the question, dummy. And it wasn't hearsay. Telling how she found out about their injuries isn't hearsay.
In the days after the incident, did you have quite a few interactions with the dance team?
Yeah, we tried to keep ourselves busy and we did a lot of things together.
Did you attend any visuals or any memorials or anything like that?
Yes, I did.
How is that relevant? How does that
State
help
for the record
you?
and for the jury, how many?
I believe it
Seriously.
was on Monday. I went to that vigil.
And that would be the only one that you attended?
Yeah, that was the only one they had.
He's gonna have 7 victims soon because he's killing me. Okay, ask your
Were
next
you aware
question.
of things set up financially for the victims?
Can you repeat that?
Were you aware of any for example, like GoFundMe's or
Seriously.
donations or anything for the victims?
I mean,
Were
are
there
you going to
anything like
try
that
and
going
make a
on in the
claim on
days
those
after the incident?
because you had a part in creating them?
Relevance.
Grounds.
It's the
Relevance. He said relevance. Listen. As a litigator, you need to engage in active listening.
And you yourself donate to any causes associated with the incident?
Objection.
I did not.
Relevance. This
Are you still currently a member of the dance team?
Can you tell me which one you're referring to?
What is it, stream dance team?
Yeah, I'm not. I do not work there anymore.
And was that decision made by the incident, or was it just a personal decision?
Objection.
Irrelevant.
Sustained.
You testified earlier to having the blackout and that being the first time that happened. Would that be fair to say?
She
Yes.
already answered. Stop.
Have you had any blackouts anytime since?
She hasn't
Yeah.
had anything that
No.
traumatic since.
First and only time would be that day.
Asked and
Correct.
answered. Stop.
No further questions.
Yes,
Finally.
thank you. Ms. Kajewski, with respect to that blackout, you testified that you don't have a visual memory of the SUV actually striking any girls that day. Is that right?
Correct.
You testified, however, that you remember what it sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard the
Describe
sound.
Yes.
And it's
sorry.
awful.
Yes. So it sounded like those big orange construction cones just being hit. That's what I remember it as.
You do have a visual memory of the immediate aftermath of the strike?
I do.
What are
does
your
that mean?
grounds?
Hearsay.
It's not.
The answer. It's overruled.
Apparently, he
Just-
didn't do his homework.
Pure chaos. Shoes everywhere, palms everywhere, bodies, people screaming, running around. Just chaos.
It's not like she has anything to
When
sanction
asked
him
on
with
cross-examination
for bad
what caused
faith
your blackout,
objections.
you said stress and shock. You remember giving that testimony?
Yes.
At any time in your life before November 21st of 2021, had you ever witnessed an SUV drive through a group of young women?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
It's not hearsay.
Relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
No.
What about any time since November 21st?
You were hyper focused on her
Objection.
blackout.
Relevancy.
Overruled.
No.
He's going into the cause of those blackouts that you
Oh, yeah,
were
thank you.
hyper focused on.
Thank you. You may stop.
Her experiences are relevant.
She may.
He's ridiculous.
Call Jamie Sutton.
Just like he doesn't understand because he doesn't stand under. And this witness should be here to, as an expert witness, to testify about the speed of the SUV from the video analysis.
All right, good afternoon, Ms. Sutton. If you would please make your way to the witness stand, which is to my right up one riser. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
And it's going to go all over his head. He won't understand a word she says.
She's right here.
Oh,
It's okay.
do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
But
so help you God?
what does the
Yes. Thank you.
1802
Please have a seat.
edition of Black's Law Dictionary say about hearsay, though,
The
static?
first thing I would like you to do is to state your first and last names for the record, and then spell each.
First
And
name
is it in the
Jamie
traveler
Sutton,
section
J-A-I-M-I-E,
or driver section?
last name Sutton, S-U-T-T-O-N.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. Ms. Sutton, how old are you?
I'm 23.
Do you have an affiliate, or have you ever had an affiliation with the Extreme Dance Group here in Waukesha?
They
Yes, I worked there last year.
another dancer.
How long did you work for?
They were
Extreme?
going to do the speed analysis,
From May of 2021 to April of 2022.
but it would have been too
What
long
was your
before
role
lunch.
with the organization?
I was a coach for the junior team.
But
What's the
clearly, they want to
approximate age
keep
range
the
of the
whole
junior team?
dance
About 8 to 11
group
years
testimony
How many
together
people were part of that
before going
group,
back.
the junior group?
old. 10.
And did you participate with your dance team in the Waukesha
I
Christmas
wouldn't
Parade
actually
on
know
November
about the
21st of last year?
2022 update
Yes,
because
You
I don't care
yourself were
about
actually
Black's Law
present for the parade?
Dictionary.
yes,
Did you attend as spectators or did you march in the
I
parade
never used it
marched in the
once
parade.
in law school.
with your girls?
yes,
Do you remember approaching the 5 Points intersection?
yes.
Do you remember what happened at that intersection?
A car drove along my left side.
I'm gonna ask to put up for the jury exhibit number 15, which has previously been received and published.
Go ahead.
It is still in publication. They do
Okay, do you see
update
the
it.
screen in front of you?
Yes,
You see a group of names in a green box, at the bottom of which is titled Waukesha Extreme Dance.
yes,
You familiar with the names in that list? You can take a few moments to read through it if you'd like.
yes,
And the black line connecting that box to a star, you see that?
yes,
Does that star accurately represent the approximate location where you and your girls were when the car came through your group?
yes,
I'm going to ask that we
It's very
display
outdated.
exhibit 32 and publish it. It's previously been
And
received.
it's not
and
just that
submitted.
they use it in an
Excuse me,
outdated
published.
way. They just use it.
go ahead.
It's plain wrong.
This is a minute and 23. We're not going to play the whole
But
thing.
they read all the
Ms.
cases
Sutton. What I'd
wrong
like to do
anyway,
is to
so-
play this from the beginning, and then at a certain point, I'll pause it, and I'm going to ask you to see if you see yourself on the video. Okay?
Okay,
I mean,
So
we
we're just
saw
going to take a
how he
look at
tried
this
to
from the
argue
beginning.
US v. Lopez earlier today, and he was just so wrong that it's not even worth analyzing. And the Mello case, I haven't read it. It's just they don't understand what they read, or they ascribe a different meaning to it anyway.
Pause, please. We've paused at the 43-second mark. Do you see yourself on the screen?
yes,
So that's a touch screen in front of you. Can you use your finger and circle yourself for us? Okay, so what's on your head?
I have a gray hat on.
Gotcha. Okay, we can clear that, please. We'll continue watching from that point. Pause. We've paused at the 57-second mark. Based on the video that we've seen so far in this exhibit, did it appear to you as though the girls were maintaining their position in the group?
Yes,
Could we display for the witness exhibit number 33 and publish this as well, please? It's previously been admitted and published.
go ahead.
I would like you, Ms. Sutton, to please take a few minutes or moments and look at this exhibit.
And lawyers do
all
actually
the
take
names.
that
Let me
into
know when you're
account, the changing nature of language.
Okay,
The boxes with names in them,
So in analyzing a statute from,
are they accurately
say,
represented in this
1912,
diagram
they
based
will
on where
look
they
at a
were in
dictionary
formation in
from
real life?
1912
Okay.
to provide
I
context.
now would like to play for the witness only, exhibit number 36, please.
go ahead.
But just like Black's Law Dictionary, that context is just persuasive. It's not authoritative.
So we played about 11
Even though
seconds
sovereign
for you there.
citizens
Do you
seem to
recognize that
think
video?
Yes.
Black's Law
Have you seen it
Dictionary
before?
is
Yes.
law.
What does it show?
It's not. It's
It
persuasive.
shows a car
hitting some of our girls.
Is that video an accurate depiction of how the events unfolded that day?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 36 into evidence and ask for permission to publish.
He's gonna object.
Exhibit 36 is received. Permission to
Oh.
publish is granted. May I please have the total length of the video?
This is 29 seconds. We're going to play from the beginning, and we're going to turn the audio on.
Your Honor, is the video playing at the right speed?
My understanding it will be.
We'll double check for Mr. Brooks. Can we make sure that we've got it at 100%?
It just wasn't turned up. So that means when it was just showed, it wasn't playing at the right speed.
I think I can just very simply clarify. To adjust the speed, you have to change it to see what it's set at. So it was at 100%, and it is now back at 100%.
Thank you.
I object to that for the record.
Your bribes are
So it
working
wasn't at the right
static.
speed.
The record reflects the statement made by Attorney Wichow regarding the speed, and the court accepts that. Go ahead.
And the objection.
Even without seeing the video, the screams are horrifying.
Okay, I'd like to go back to the beginning of that, please.
And once again,
we're
she's
going to
traumatized. She's
please.
looking down. She's
We're going to slow that down, Ms. Sutton.
having a hard
And I'd
time.
like you, at a certain point,
As
we're gonna
I would.
pause, and if possible, if you can, I'd like you to identify some people in the frame for us, okay?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to play from the beginning at, can we reduce it? please,
Sometimes
to
it is,
40%?
'cause The imagination can be
And turn the sound
worse
off.
than
So we'll play from the
reality.
beginning. Pause. Paused at 12 seconds. How many people do you see laying on the ground, Ms. Sutton?
I see one person laying on the ground in this frame.
And could you circle them for us? Who is that?
That is Vivian
What's her last name?
Ural.
That has to
There's-
preserve the annotation,
Wailing in the courtroom.
mark it as Exhibit 36A, and enter it into the evidence.
I'm
please.
guessing Vivian's family is there.
The annotation will be captured. It will be marked as 36A. It is received.
Could we please remove the annotation? And could we go frame by frame for a few frames here? Pause. So we've stopped at 12-second timestamp. At the moment that the SUV first made contact with your group, where were you in relation to the rest of the group?
I was towards the back right side of the group.
Right,
looking at the
as in
girls.
standing in the road and looking down the parade route?
Yes.
So that means she,
Based on
Should
your
have
position in
seen
the road and your
her girls
memory
struck.
from that day, are you able to identify anybody else who's depicted in the video at this point?
I believe that's Olivia Stover in the left.
And what color is her hair?
Brown.
Could you please circle Olivia for us? And that's to preserve that annotation and mark it as Exhibit 36B and to enter it into evidence, please.
Face.
Your objections noted.
She was
36B
identified.
is received, and the
The face isn't
annotation
the
will be
only thing
captured
you
and preserved.
identify her by.
We can take that down now, please. Ms. Sutton, can you walk us through your memory of what happened as the SUV began to go through your group?
Yes, I was in the back right with some of our younger teams and was helping them get in their formation. And I heard some yelling behind me, some screaming, and I looked over my left shoulder. And just as I looked over my left shoulder, there was a red car that drove through. By the time I looked,
Uh-oh.
it was already
She said car, not SUV.
hitting our girls.
So it clearly wasn't him.
What
It was a
happened
different red car.
Girls that were not injured started to run over to the sidewalk. So I started to gather them all in one area.
What happened next?
I tried to reunite those that I could with their parents. Those that I couldn't, I took with me, and I heard there was an active shooter. So we went into Chef Pam's kitchen and hid out there until we were told it was all clear to go to our cars.
Chef Pam's Kitchen is a business, a storefront on Main Street?
Yes.
What happened next?
After that, I went to my car, went to the hospital, and did my police statements.
In the immediate aftermath after the SUV came through your group, did you at any point see a person named Charlotte Urell?
Not that day.
Okay. You know who Charlotte Urell is?
Yes.
Can you explain for us her relationship to the extreme dance group?
It's not irrelevant. She was in the dance
She
group.
is the older sister of two
Well,
of the Waukesha
Related
Extreme
to the
Dancers.
dance group.
Was she with your group in the parade?
Yes, she was handing out candy.
And
So she was with
you
them,
said
just
you
not
didn't
as a
see
dancer.
Charlotte that day. When did you next see her?
Well, I saw her that day before the parade started, but I didn't see her in the aftermath.
Okay. When did you see her after the SUV went through the group? When's the next time you saw Charlotte Urell?
Weeks later at the dance studio.
Okay. And did you make any observations of Charlotte at that time?
She was on crutches.
Do you know why she was on crutches?
Grounds.
She was hit by the car that drove through.
During the parade?
Yes.
The red SUV we saw in the videos you watched?
Yes.
What about Grayson Urell? Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Probably her brother.
He is the younger brother of two of the Waukesha Extreme Dancers.
Did you see Grayson Urell marching with your group during the Christmas parade?
Yes.
Before the SUV came through the group?
Yes.
Did you see Grayson Urell at any point after the SUV came through?
Not that day.
When is the next time after the SUV came through your group that you saw Grayson?
Weeks later when he was discharged from the hospital after being hit from the red SUV.
Weeks later.
What personal observations did you make of Grayson at that time?
Weeks
He
in
had
the
a
hospital.
large cast on his arm. I believe he might have been in a wheelchair or crutches.
So he was
Can you
severely
describe for us the
injured.
uniform that your girls were wearing that day?
They were wearing black leggings, black Waukesha Extreme jackets, white Santa hats with light up headbands attached to them, white light up gloves, and white pom-poms.
Could we please display for the witness only exhibit number 102? 102. Ms. Sutton, just let me know when you see the screen, okay? What are we looking at here?
This is a red SUV that is smashed up. And there's a white light up headband on what used to be the side mirror.
Do you recognize that white light up headband?
Yes.
Like
is it?
we've said earlier, I don't know if you were here. It's not hearsay.
That is one of the headbands.
He didn't
that
do
was
his homework.
over our girls' white sandals.
Every time he asks, would it be fair to say, I'd say, no, it would not be fair to say. That's an opinion question.
Is this photo an accurate depiction of how that headband looked the day of the parade?
Yes.
Before? Yeah. Obviously, it's not on anybody's head right now.
Yes.
Okay. I move Exhibit 102 into evidence and ask for permission to publish.
He never states his grounds, but he sure barks grounds
The court
every
shall
time the
withhold
prosecution
receiving
objects.
Exhibit 102 until further foundation can be laid. So permission to publish is denied at this point.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, any questions for this witness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you recall what time you arrived at the parade that evening?
In the
The
afternoon.
parade started at 4. I believe I was there around 3:30.
Did you come with anybody or?
I came with Alyssa.
That was the previous
Would it be
witness,
fair
I
to say
believe.
that you guys are pretty close?
Yes.
Do you recall giving a statement to Detective Schwartz?
I gave a statement to a deputy. I don't know their name.
I wouldn't remember the name a year later.
Do you recall at what time that was roughly after the incident?
It was around 6:30 that night.
So within 2 hours. Fresh in her memory.
Do you remember where you were when you gave the statement?
It was at the transit center, the Waukesha Transit Center.
And when did you first notice a vehicle approaching?
I heard screaming and yelling behind me, and that was when I looked over my left shoulder.
But you
Do
don't
you
know the
recall how
time down
close
to the
vehicle was
second.
to you at the time where you looked over your left shoulder?
It was on the left side, and I was on the far right. So it wasn't very close to me.
She probably didn't see the driver. But other people did.
Were you able to identify any driver of the vehicle?
No.
Would it be fair to say that you referred to it, the vehicle, numerous times as car?
Yes.
Would it also be fair to say that you then identified it as an SUV?
I said this the first time she said
Yes.
car. He's going to get hung up on it.
So what exactly did you see? What type of vehicle did you actually see, an SUV or a car?
It was an SUV.
Any reason why
People
you would
call
refer to it as car?
SUVs cars all
I
the
refer to all
time.
cars is just cars, no matter what they are. If it's a truck, it's still a car.
That's pretty
Would it be
common.
fair to say that certain vehicles look different than others?
Absolutely.
It's common usage. I saw a red vessel strike
At what point do you
my
recall
dancers,
hearing,
but I
that
didn't
there
recognize
may
the
have been an
boat
active shooter?
captain.
Could you repeat that question?
At what point do you recall hearing that there may be an active shooter?
When I was gathering the girls who hadn't been hit, a man came up to me and said that there was an active shooter
Do you,
amongst all of that.
And once
do you
again,
recall
this
if that
isn't
was somebody
good
marching in the
calling
parade or a
back to
spectator,
this
or
over and
I'm not
over
sure.
again,
were they any law enforcement?
reminding
No,
the jury that the police found
Did
you
you hear
such
any
a
shots?
threat that they
no.
shot at you.
And where did you go from there after you were informed that there may be an active shooter?
Into the
I
kitchen.
went into Chef Pam's kitchen.
Chef Pam's kitchen.
Did you go in there alone, or
No, people were piling in there, and I had several girls with me, several dancers with me.
In videos, we saw lights flicker on in businesses as people took cover.
you were shown a few videos? Do you recall seeing those before today?
Yes,
How many times have you seen them before today?
at least 10 times.
So pretty frequently you've seen them.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that you
No.
saw those numerous times to maybe bring back something you couldn't recall?
Yes.
You stay for the record and for the jury who showed you
For the
these,
record and for the jury.
videos multiple times.
They were sent to me.
Seriously.
So that would be, were they sent via email or
Over text message.
text messages?
Yeah.
And can you stay for the record and for the jury who the text messages were sent from?
Okay, for the
Alyssa.
record and for the jury is the new word of the day.
So they weren't sent by
apparently.
any law enforcement or
No.
Exactly. Which incident are you referring to? That's vague. Can you please elaborate?
to the best of your knowledge, can you recall how Alyssa was able to obtain the video that you saw today?
I'm
How
not
would she
sure.
know? Calls.
So she never mentioned that to you in any way at any time?
No.
It's not her personal experience.
Were you
Alyssa
able
could have
to identify the driver?
testified to it.
No.
Were you able to identify a license plate number?
No.
License plate number. I think he said that more than once, so I can be petty about it.
Were you injured during the incident in any way?
No.
So are you a victim? Did you file a claim? He's now onto his checklist.
Did you go to the hospital after the event?
Yes.
Were you transported there, or did you drive there yourself, or
My fiance drove me there.
do you recall how long you stayed at the hospital?
Not long. I was told just to go give a police statement.
So it would be fair to say that you went to the hospital strictly for the police statement
I went
purposes?
to the hospital to see if the girls that I had unaccounted for were at the hospital.
And were you able to gain the information that you were seeking?
Yes.
So that would explain the brief stay at the hospital.
Yes.
The hospital
Did
was
you learn any
probably a
additional information
circus.
at that point?
They need
Nope.
they needed non-essential people gone. She's a dance teacher, not a nurse.
Do you recall in the statement that you gave to Detective Schwartz that you
Don't call
observe
attention to her
people running towards the
statement.
sidewalk?
Doesn't
Yes.
help you.
Did you see anyone on the sidewalk struck by the vehicle?
No.
She saw her dancers. You struck her dancers.
Do you recall stating that you were waiting inside of a building for what seemed like a long time?
Yes.
And what would you estimate time-wise, what time frame that would be?
Probably.
Just object here and ask for clarification about what building we're talking about.
Sustain us to the form of the question, please rephrase.
Well, from the report, it just says they needed to seek shelter inside of a building, so it doesn't say the name of
But
the
you
building.
didn't indicate it was the one she was seeking shelter in.
I guess that's why I didn't refer to a specific name of the
But
building.
from her testimony, she said where she
Please rephrase.
How long would you estimate you seeked shelter?
seeked.
Probably around an hour.
How long did you seek shelter?
And did you immediately leave from that point?
I made sure all of my girls were reunited with their parents and family members. And once they were all reunited, then I left.
She's been very good
Do
as
you
a
recall giving
witness.
a written
Very
statement?
composed.
Yes.
If you read from it,
Do you
Brooks,
recall
it's not going to help you.
who you gave the written statement to?
No.
Do you recall in your written statement saying that it seemed as if something was wrong with the vehicle?
Yes.
And what would you, from your recollection, what would you say was wrong
It's
with the vehicle?
damage from hitting a bunch of
It was
people.
going very fast. I thought maybe there was brake failure happening because it was going so fast.
And what made you come to that conclusion?
Because no sane person
there
would
was
be
a
driving
car
it through the
driving
parade
through the
otherwise.
Instead of slowly rolling through like the other vehicles.
Because she didn't know
So it'd
what
be
you
fair to
were
say your
doing,
initial
why
thought
you were
was
doing
something
it.
was wrong with the vehicle.
Yes.
Did you see any smoking from the vehicle, any damage to the vehicle at that point?
No.
So that would indicate you intentionally were running through the parade.
Did you observe where the vehicle went after it passed you?
Through more of the parade.
Did you see anyone struck after the vehicle passed you?
Yes.
But
But
to
she
the
was
best of your
behind her
recollection,
girls
you
that you
don't
hit.
recall what the vehicle did after it passed you.
Correct.
What do you consider after it passed you? This is all very subjective, vague language. Is it after it passed the dance troupe, after it, as soon as it passed her physical location? That once it was out of her sight?
Would you say it was pretty loud that night?
Yes.
Pretty windy, cold?
Yes.
after you had been waiting in the building for a while, who came and informed you guys that it was okay to leave at that point?
It was police that came and told us we were clear to go.
Was it one officer, a couple
Just
of
one.
them? Two of them?
Just one.
You don't recall their names by chance?
Getting the name was the last thing on
At
her
that
mind.
point, did you ask the
She's not a sovereign
police
citizen,
officers
so
for
she
any
didn't need the
information
name
about
and
the
badge
active
number.
shooter?
No.
This isn't Pokemon. She doesn't have to collect them all.
About what time would you estimate that you left the parade?
After I got the all clear,
Do you recall what time that was?
I do not recall.
She made the statement about 6:30, she said. That was at the hospital.
Do you recall if the vehicle had any tinted windows?
I do not recall.
Were you close enough to the vehicle to make out the make and model of the vehicle?
No.
It's okay. There's only one red SUV speeding through the parade.
Do you recall any windows being down or anything like that?
No.
Do you recall anything being tossed from the vehicle, falling out of the vehicle?
No.
So it's just pretty much just moving straight.
Yes.
About how long would you approximate you watch the travel of the vehicle after it had passed you?
Oh, the travel of the
I
vehicle.
didn't watch the vehicle after it went past me. I was looking at the dancers on the ground.
Almost like she has priorities.
So it would be fair to say that once the vehicle passed you, you couldn't see if it struck anyone else at that point.
Stop. You've already gone over this over and over.
Hey, redirect.
At least he didn't do the sovereign
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
citizen stuff with her.
Thank you. You may step down.
I say stuff, but you probably know what I mean. .245 in Milwaukee. It's
Please call your
break
next
time.
witness.
Oh,
State calls Detective Mike Carpenter.
I thought with her standing up it was break time. Detective Mike Carpenter. He's probably the speed analyst. I assume they get to the speed analyst today since they're here in the building. Little strategizing session with
Good
the
afternoon, detectives.
assistants
If you would
at
please
the
make your
second
way to the
council
witness
table.
stand, which is to my right. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand. My clerk Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. First thing I will have you do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Michael Carpenter, first name spelled Michael, last name spelled Carpenter.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Detective, what do you do for a living?
I'm a detective with the City of Waukesha Police Department.
How long
Wow,
have you been a
I'm
detective?
shocked. A
I've
detective
been
is a detective for a living.
approximately 12 years,
How long total in service with the Waukesha Police Department?
approximately 20 years.
Is that your first job, Waukesha Police Department?
I worked a brief stint for about 6 months each at the Town of Brookfield Police Department part-time and the Town of Merton Lake Patrol part-time before moving on to the City of Waukesha.
What is your current assignment as a detective?
I'm in the computer forensics unit.
What type of things do you do in that unit?
Okay, so
Analyze digital data,
speed.
digital video recorders, cell phones, regular computers, pretty much anything that can hold
Speed
digital
analyst.
media.
Did you conduct a speed analysis in this case?
Yes, I did.
Can you walk us through when you set out to conduct a speed analysis? First of all, what is it and how do you go about conducting that analysis?
Basically, throughout reviewing video for this incident, we wanted to determine if there was a way to get an accurate speed from the red SUV. I've been through some training, certified as an input ACE examiner. That's a software we use. And we determined that there were cameras that existed along the parade route on West Main Street that may have held useful information. Specifically, we were looking for surveillance video that was still in its native proprietary format that would still hold that metadata that would let us conduct a speed analysis. I did locate Bosco Social Club, which is a bar located at 260 West Main Street in the city of Waukesha, that had a proprietary format that I believe that let us do that analysis.
How many cameras were affixed to the Bosco's storefront?
There were two, one on the southwest side of the building and one on the southeast, at least that we used. I believe they also have video inside and towards the rear of the establishment, but we were concerned with the cameras facing West Main Street.
So once you get the surveillance video, what do you do with it?
I viewed the video to determine if it would be suitable. The video was, in my opinion, pretty high quality. I could see the vehicle clearly traveling westbound on West Main Street. So we believe that we'd be able to explore that further and try to conduct the analysis from that.
So what did you do?
The next step was we had to determine what an accurate frame rate was for the camera. Most surveillance systems have what's called a variable frame rate. In defining a frame, basically a video is a series of still images or frames put together to show motion. However, that can vary from frame to frame. That timing may not be exactly the same. We went down to
That's the
Bosco's
problem with
and
digital.
placed a device in front of each camera called a VFR light board that's supplied and
Although I
calibrated
imagine
by
there are more
computers.
advantages
Placed
to
in front of each
digital
camera.
over
And that board's got a
taped
series of
surveillance.
flashing lights that have timing in them. Recorded a video of that board from each camera and then returned to my forensic lab and placed that into the input ACE software, and we were able to calculate the timing more accurately between each frame, so we had a more scientific approach to it.
I
What did you
imagine
do
they
with that
need the
information?
distance from the camera
Once
as
I had that
well.
information, let me back up. Prior to having that information, I had also asked
Knowledge of the
Specialist Plata of
distance
our
within the
criminal evidence forensics unit, our traditional
frame of the
forensics,
camera.
to respond to the area of Bosco's and use the department's, it's called FARO, F-A-R-O, their 3D laser crime scene mapping device. They mapped various points in front of Bosco's, and we were able to basically find the orientation, the position that the eastbound camera was facing. And then once that was done, we could take a screenshot of that 3D scan, which measures, my understanding is millions of points. Once I had that done, I was able
His
to bring that into
cross-examination
the
is
software
going to
begin
be
the
a
overlay
mess
process
with
where I could
this
overlay
one.
the images on top of each other. So we brought the screenshot of the 3D scan in, brought a partial video in of the red SUV traveling westbound. It began to compare points from the 3D scan and the video. It began to plot those points. For instance, a intersecting crack in the sidewalk. If I could see it in the 3D scan, I would plot that point and then match it up in the video. Did that over a number of points, and then that enables us to lay the video identically on top of the 3D scan. Once that was complete, then that's where we started bringing in the light board video to find out the timing, to find out how many milliseconds or seconds passed in this incident. In this particular video, I was concerned with frames 35 through 60 of that vehicle traveling westbound.
That's
Once I
half a second
taken the
at
timing from the VFR
60
light board,
frames per second.
I determined that with the assistance of the software that the average was
He's
0.834
testifying from
seconds
memory.
had passed in those 25 frames that that vehicle, or I'm sorry, 26 frames that that vehicle continued westbound. What that does, it then gives me a low end and a high end that I can use for a margin of error. So it said the longest time it would take for the vehicle to travel westbound through those 26 frames would be 0.838 seconds. And the quickest time that it could pass through those 26 frames would be 0.830 seconds.
Well, my half
Once I had that
second guess
information,
was
I was able to
based
completely
on
overlay
incomplete
the
information. Not
video under the
terrible.
3D scan, and I could start at frame 35, and it enables me to overlay it within the 3D scanning software, and I was able to drop a small point. The clearest
Of course, I
point
didn't
of
take
reference
into
in
account
this
time
view as there were people
entering
around it and other things in
and
the area.
then
I was
leaving.
able
I
to pick
just
the front passenger's wheel and drop a point directly in the center of that wheel, advance frame by frame until I was at frame 60, drop another point, and then I can use a slider to go back and forth to either have the vehicle present or just the 3D scanning. Once I had just the 3D scanning,
but my guess would have had
then
him
I could take
faster.
and measure the distance from that first point in frame 35 to the last point. And
So we'll
frame
use my guess
60.
for the jury.
And then I was able to calculate that. I was able to input that in with the different measurements of, 0.838 seconds and the 0.830. When I did that within the software, it told me that the distance was 12.7477 meters. When I converted that to feet, I believe it was 41.8231 feet. That allowed me to compare that with the fastest that the vehicle could travel and the slowest that the vehicle could travel. And with the margin of error, convert that to feet per second and then miles per hour, which came up with a measurement for those 26 frames of 33.7 to 34.6 miles per hour in those particular frames.
Can we project for
So 33
for
to
the jury
just
exhibit number
under
15, which
35.
has previously been received and published?
Go ahead.
Bearing in mind, if there had been no parade, Main Street's 25.
Okay, do you recognize the area on the map depicted in exhibit 15?
Yes, it's the 5 Points intersection area of downtown Waukesha.
The screen in front of you is a touch screen. Could you just draw a small little X to depict where the approximate location of Bosco's is?
I believe it's going to be roughly right about here.
So north side of Main Street?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't think we need to save that. We'll just say it's an X between the 5 Points intersection and Gasper Street on Main. So we'll clear that and take that down. And now can we please project for the witness and for the jury exhibit number 31, which I think that's also been received and published. And it has, yep. Okay, you see the screen in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Is this the video from Bosco's that you have been talking about today?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start at about the 10-second timestamp. Now you were talking about 26 frames, I think you said?
Yes.
Okay. Let's slow this down to about 50%, please. And we'll play from this point.
9 seconds.
Sorry, yes, 9 seconds.
Preserve that record.
Pause. We have paused at 16 seconds. So you're basically measuring what? Walk us through the screen here. What are you measuring?
So as soon as the red SUV came into view of the video traveling westbound, once I had a frame where there was no obstruction, I could see the full passenger side tire. That's where I dropped my first point, and then I let the SUV continue westbound until I found another spot where there was no obstruction. Now, when I overlaid it between the 3D software and the video I have here, during this video, there's no foliage on the branches. During the 3D scan, there
No
is
foliage?
so that blocked a little bit, so I had to stop a little earlier than what I wanted. But I was just basically measuring how far that SUV or that wheel traveled during those frames in that amount of time.
Okay, so you're measuring distance and time,
Yes,
and from that you're calculating speed.
yes,
And you've already talked about the different variables that you took into consideration, right?
yes.
And that resulted in what's your ultimate conclusion?
33.7 to 34.6 miles per hour.
And the 26 frames that you're talking about, they are in this video?
Yes.
Okay, let's just play from the 16-second mark. Pause. And we stopped at the 17-second mark. So the 26 frames are entirely within that 9 second to 17 seconds.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Cross.
Very, very briefly.
Very, very briefly. It's because he doesn't understand what was said.
You stated earlier that in reference to traveling through frames that sometimes you may encounter problems with the estimation. Would that be fair to say?
No, I don't believe that was my testimony.
You testified to at one point or another that sometimes exact timing of speed could be a little inaccurate.
There's a margin of error.
No, I don't believe that properly characterizes.
What were you referring to at that?
I was referring to that digital video recording systems, surveillance systems, they use something that's called variable frame rate.
And that has to
Can't
be
say that
taken
every
into
single one
account.
does, but almost all of them do that. From frame to frame, it could change by a millisecond, hundreds of milliseconds.
You've got to know the time
do
a
this
frame
the most
took.
accurate scientific way possible. That's why we conducted it the way we did with the variable frame rate board.
So there can be sometimes miscalculations. Is that fair to say?
I don't
mean,
believe so.
you
the
can
way we
miscalculate.
performed it.
Well, I was referring to the process in general, which you just stated that sometimes by milliseconds, hundreds of milliseconds, a millisecond, that sometimes there can be miscalculation.
Not sure I'm completely understanding the question. Are you asking in this specific example or just in general?
The process in general.
Somebody conducting an analysis a completely different way, it's possible, but in this analysis from my training experience is the most scientifically possible way we can do it.
And before this occasion, had you used the same method that you used for this occasion?
Yes.
How many times?
I had not used it in a live case yet. This was our first chance to do this, but I done it a number of times in our training examples.
But the first time you've done it in a live case.
Yes.
Can you state for the jury what is the difference
For the
between
jury,
a live case and any other case?
There really is no difference. The
He's
training examples are
practiced.
hands-on, and the process we follow through all those examples to establish competency is exactly the same way we do it for any other investigation.
So if they're pretty much the same, why is it a need for the title live if
because
they're pretty much the
this
same?
is the first time he's done
It was
it
just
with
the term I
someone
used to
charged
say this
with a
was the,
crime.
first investigation we've used it in.
He
So
did
what,
test
other
cases.
just pretty standard cases then, not
No,
live
they're test
investigations?
cases.
They were training examples that came from actual investigations that those agencies gave permission for their case files and their data to be shared as a training example and to recreate their examinations.
So they weren't active investigations to the best of your knowledge.
Correct.
He
They
just
were
said
adjudicated.
So this time that you used this technology was the first time to your knowledge that it was during a live investigation.
that's the first time he has
Yes.
used it in a live investigation. He said,
So would it be fair to say
Stop
that
it.
that's like the first time it's being used?
the first
In
time
the city of
he
Waukesha?
has used it.
Or in general, I'm not sure I'm understanding.
Is it fair to say that this specific investigation was the first time that you've used it?
That I
First he's
personally
used
the
it.
software, or that
Yes.
somebody
Yes,
has
he
used it?
said
You.
This was the first time I personally used the software.
in a live
as our
case.
agency recently purchased it, and this was the first case we were able to use it on.
And so would it be fair to say that usually anyone's first time using new technology?
It's
there
not
would
his
be
first time using
learning
it.
curve.
It's his
Would
first
that be fair
live
to say?
case. He was trained on it.
I would
He took
I
a
would say
course.
no.
So you would say you came right into using this new technology the first time you've ever personally used it and knew
He
exactly
didn't say
how it
it's the
worked.
first time he
I
personally
would
used
say
it.
over
He said
my
it's the
career,
first live
especially with,
case.
conducting
He
digital
did
forensic
trial
examinations,
runs.
I had over 1,500 hours of training in various aspects. I'm a certified trainer. I hold a certified forensic computer examiner
He's
certification through the
just
International
giving him
Association of
time
Computer
to
Investigative
go over
Specialists,
even more
along with
credentials,
other certifications
strengthening
as well.
his
I obtained all
position
the
as an
certifications from the
authoritative
company that put on the training
professional witness.
for this process, for this device, for video analysis. And we tend to follow principles throughout all the different disciplines. And the training's quite intensive, quite difficult. So over that time, you develop the skills necessary to be able to start using software, using your techniques to do these investigations right away.
So you're
He
stating
didn't
some pretty
understand that.
nice credentials there, but you also just said that there's some difficulty in the training. Would any of that difficulty lean towards the learning curve of working the software?
In my opinion, for myself, no.
So you pretty much
He said
can come
he's
into
built
new technology and
competence.
just know exactly how to work it. You're just ready to go.
Over time, he's built competence.
Grounds.
Answered.
Grounds.
Asked and answered, he said.
This particular, if we're talking strictly about video analysis, I attended a 40-hour class using the software Input Ace along with forensic video analysis at the National Computer Forensic Institute, run by the Secret Service in Alabama. And then I also obtained several certifications through Input Ace.
That wouldn't be the
themselves.
Alabama Secret
Having
Service.
approximately 80 hours in training through the video software, this was not much of a learning curve as I had previously been using Input Ace software for approximately 2 years.
So this new technology was a variation of, well, let me back up.
It's like, are you competent to
What you're
use
saying is this new
Microsoft Word
technology was a variation
2022
of technology that you had already previously
immediately?
Objection. This characterizes the evidence.
Grounds.
This is not-
But you've done
used. Grounds.
Microsoft Word
sustain this to the
2021
form
for
of
a
a
full
question.
year and Microsoft Word in general for 30 years. But you just barely got Microsoft Word 2022, so you're incompetent.
Before using this technology in this live investigation, as you coined it,
He did test cases.
have you previously heard of this technology before using it in this live investigation?
No,
Yes.
it just appeared on his computer
Any
for
idea
this
how long it may
investigation.
have been being used before you used it?
To my best knowledge, it's been around for Several years. We first started investigating it in approximately January.
January of 2022?
Yes.
Well, the video was 2 months old by
You
that time.
are
How
aware
could you
that
possibly
this live
analyze it?
investigation would have been a live investigation in November of 2021. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And if you didn't investigate the whole thing in that 2 month
So it
period,
will also be fair to
it's
say
invalid.
that if your department didn't start using this technology until
He would have
January of
used
2022,
one of the previous technologies.
how were you able to
he
use
used.
it in November of 2021?
This was not conducted in November of 2021. Once we learned about methods when we were trying to locate a more scientific way to do a speed analysis, I discovered this method, the training that the company put on.
Almost like
We had to
as long as
obtain
it was
budgetary
done
funds of
before
approximately
October of
$4,000.
2022,
Then we had to schedule the training.
it was
The
done.
training was supposed to be earlier in the spring, and
You don't have to do
couple
the
of
whole
instructors got out of
investigation
COVID, so
the
classes
minute
got
the
pushed back
event
to summer.
happens.
We had been doing, they had provided me with all the online training
It's
videos,
not
so I could go
invalid
through,
if they
watch those,
continue to evaluate the
start prepping
evidence.
myself as much as I could, and then this summer,
It's just
we
best
actually had
practices
the
to
class
keep
with hands-on
going.
examples. and
Dot
that's
your
when they provided
I's,
the
cross your
certification.
T's.
After that is when we actually went out and were able to do the speed analysis based on the videos that we had from November 21st.
So the bulk of your learning to work this technology was done via video.
You did a
and,
40-hour course.
live instruction.
And that live instruction was in the summer, as you stated, correct?
Some of it was, they don't do it all in one segment, so it was completed with an instructor between, I believe, May and the beginning of August.
So when did you, around what time did you do this analysis?
I believe I performed the actual analysis somewhere around the middle of August. I can't
Well,
remember the exact
that's
date.
it. It's invalid.
So
Throw it
pretty
out.
recent.
Yes.
Throw it
Any
out.
idea why so long, considering that this matter has been going on for roughly a year?
Objection, asked and answered.
Grounds.
The last 3 to 5 minutes.
Grounds.
Overruled. You may answer.
We just wanted to make sure that we had all the proper equipment, the proper training, all the proper documentation, certifications for myself and the device.
They
before we went out
were
and
dotting
did
their
the
I's
actual
and
analysis.
crossing their T's.
So your department thought it would be best to hold off on the analysis until you got everything in order.
Yes, until we had the certification.
Ensuring
Make sure they were valid.
competence. Imagine that.
Would it be fair to say that that's a pretty lengthy amount of time to wait to do
No, it's before
an
trial.
analysis?
He
in
got
a
it done.
Case that's a pretty big case.
He
No,
got
I
it
would not
done.
say that.
Have you ever
It's
had
irrelevant.
that sort of delay before in any other live investigations?
I can't recall specifically if there's been something that delayed our analysis of another piece of evidence, another investigation, but there is a delay to sometimes purchasing equipment for a new piece of technology or a new type of training. When we start talking about digital forensics,
My eyes might
Talking about
just roll out the back
tens
of
of
my
thousands of
head.
dollars for equipment, and often
I apologize to
anywhere between
anyone
$3,000 to $6,000
traumatized
for
from
a
watching.
new clone of
My
training
eyes
for
roll out the
something.
back of my head.
So there's a delay because of the financial part of the investigations, or I'm not sure I'm getting with.
Sometimes there can be.
Your understanding is
Any idea how that
inconsequential.
might apply to this live investigation?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
He
How
got
the-
it done.
The financial part of the equipment, and as you said, sometimes things can get expensive. Would that apply to this live investigation of why the delay was so long?
Objection,
Grounds.
relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I believe in January, again, is when we first started looking at this. We had to obtain the funding, schedule the training, wait for the company to host the training and all those things before we were ready to proceed with it.
Do you recall who you were referred to do the analysis?
As far
What?
As far as basically who tapped you to do it? I'm quite sure you're not
The
only
instructor of
person
the
that
Secret
does
Service
what you
course
does
in
out of your department.
Alabama?
Would that be fair to say?
No, that would not be fair. I am currently right now the only one certified in forensic video analysis.
So who tapped
It's
you
a
to be
specialized skill set.
the video analysis for this particular case?
I was the only one at our agency that would be able to perform that at this time.
Who contacted your agency?
He's in the Waukesha Police Department.
Detective Casey?
His agency is the
And
Waukesha Police Department. They went down the hall and
who
said,
does Detective
"Hey,
Casey work for
analyze this."
from your knowledge?
City Waukesha Police Department.
To the best of your knowledge, was Detective Casey made aware that it would be a long delay before the analysis can get completed?
Yes, we had discussions about it.
Was Detective Casey informed that it would be such a lengthy delay?
It asked and answered.
Grounds.
Overruled, you may answer.
Not initially. Again, this was supposed to be done a lot earlier in the year. However, due to the limited number of classes they have scheduled, where they're scheduled, and the fact that COVID unfortunately canceled a couple of the classes, that did increase the delay, which I did have conversations with Detective Casey about, advising him that it would be a little bit longer.
Were there any,
Have a good one, Static.
I guess I would say, suggestions that maybe you could use a different technology that wouldn't have caused such a long delay?
How does
Not
this
for video
matter?
analysis, no.
So what
This
video
doesn't
analysis
impact
were you doing before this new technology?
The
that you just
validity
started
of
using?
what he testified
This
about.
was
This doesn't
this technology
contradict
was
his
specific to speed
testimony.
analysis.
So there was no technology specific to speed analysis before this new technology?
Not that I'm trained in, no.
So would there have been someone else tapped to do the analysis if it wasn't for this new method?
I was concerned with video analysis, and I'm the only one at our agency that can conduct video analysis this time. As far as other methods outside of digital forensics or forensic video analysis, I would
Smaller departments
expertise or
might have
knowledge to speak on those.
hired an
I'm a
outside
little
analyst to
confused,
do it. It's not like he's the only one that could have
Do
done
you
this.
do video
Just it
and
was
speed
in-house.
analysis, or
It got
one or the
done.
other? 'Cause you just stated,
He did it.
and I think it would be fair to ask, did you just not
Fair to
state
axe.
that this was pertaining to speed analysis?
Yes.
I do video
That's
analysis
the
for all
analysis he
types of cases,
did.
whatever is requested.
But in this
I
case, he
am
did
trained
speed
to
analysis
Measure
from
speed
video.
from strictly video analysis. I'm not trained to estimate speed through other means of investigation.
So how were you able to come up with an analysis of the speed in this investigation?
By going
Based on
frame
the
by
technique
frame
that I
and
described earlier in my testimony,
doing the
of,
distance and
using the 3D scanning software, overlaying the video of the suspect vehicle traveling westbound.
he's
on
never
Main
going
Street,
to understand
plotting
this.
the points, and then measuring the distance over the time.
Was there any other method? Well, let me back up. Was there any other technology that you could have utilized that same method without a delay? Ground.
Sustained.
This guy.
You stated that you've done speed analysis numerous times. Would that be fair to say?
In what regards? In what
Into
example?
He's
to
done
any
test
before
cases.
this one?
In training examples, not in an investigation done by our agency.
So it'd be fair to say you yourself haven't done very many speed analysis.
What's
I can
very
give you a
many?
firm number of how many we did and training over that time. But no,
Not we, you. I'm asking specific to you yourself.
outside of this current investigation, I have not currently performed any for any other agency yet, no.
So would it be fair to say that maybe you could have
No,
off on a few of your analysis, being that it was
no.
your first time doing it in a live investigation, as you coined it?
No, I would not say that.
Grounds.
Hold on. What's the objection?
Calls for
They need to
speculation
start
and
zapping
argument.
him when he says grounds. Put the shock collar on.
Mr. Brooks, what was your question again?
My question was that would it be fair to say that since he's stated that this was his first time
It was argumentative.
doing a speed analysis in a live investigation, and he hadn't done it before, would it be fair to say that maybe he could have been off a little bit on his calculations, being that it was his first time?
Overall, he may
The
answer.
program did the calculations for
I
him.
would say no to that. With this, again, we're following the premise of digital forensics. It's a scientific process. We learn a technique. We follow the process. We follow the standards. It's designed to be verifiable and repeatable by anybody else that would have
Wow,
that
the
training
scientific
and,
method.
that software.
Holy
Run.
cow.
The files can be turned over to another person with equal training, and they should be able to walk step by step and still come to the same conclusion. So I would say I'm confident.
I mean,
these
Mr.
speed
Brooks
tests.
could have hired his own
So,
expert witness to refute
if
this.
someone else can come to the same conclusions that you came to, is it fair to say that someone else a little more experienced could have been tapped to do the speed analysis?
No, it
instead
should
of
have been
yourself?
repeatable.
We didn't have anybody more experienced in this area or our agency for this particular method.
You
Is
could
it
have
possible
you
that
could have
a
hired
different
someone
agency could have been
to give
tapped
your
do the
own
speed
expert
analysis?
tech testimony.
Outside of the witness's
Grounds.
personal knowledge.
Grounds.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Besides yourself, do you know of anybody that can do this analysis and come to the same conclusions as yourself?
I know of the company that provided the training. Other than that, I do not know anybody personally in this area or other investigators to use this specific technique.
They need
But would it
P.
be fair to
Barnes
say that
sitting
you
next to him
weren't
to
the only
zap
one
him.
being trained through video and the like?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
You stated that you had to be trained in this
Yes, he did a
form
40-hour
of
course.
doing the analysis. You stated the classes were, I think, from somewhere from May to August. You stated, would that be fair to say?
Yes,
What I'm asking is, were you the only person that was taking those classes?
The Secret
there were
Service did
people
it just
from
for
other
him.
countries, other states, wide ranges of specialties, paralegals, accident reconstructionists, forensic investigators, things of that nature.
Anybody in Wisconsin that you know of?
Not that I know of, no.
Why
From any other
does this
departments that
matter?
you know of?
They
Not that I'm aware of.
why they wouldn't have
So it would be
hired
fair to say that
someone
you-
from
you're
a
not
different
sure.
department when they have him in their
I don't
department.
know who has exactly what piece of software in each location, but I have not heard of anybody else in this area having the ability to do the speed analysis through video.
So it would be fair to say you're not sure.
He said he doesn't know
As to-
anyone else.
Could you clarify one more time, please?
I was pretty direct.
Mr. Brooks asked.
Don't
as far-
argue with the witness.
Doesn't understand your question. That's why he's asking.
Ask a
Did you
clear
know of
question. Don't
anyone
argue
else
with him.
That was taking the same training to operate the same
He
equipment and
said
technology that you were?
No.
Personally, no, if that's what you're asking.
So it would be fair to say that you're not sure.
He said he doesn't
I
know
can say
anyone
with
else.
confidence that nobody in the classes that I was enrolled in were from the state of Wisconsin. There were people from other countries, other states. That's really all I would know about that. I don't.
And how did you come to that conclusion?
Talking to
There,
people.
typically during our classes, we go through an introduction, where we work, where we're from, where we work, who we work for.
So it's kind of like,
School.
because you did state that they were kind of like videos, so I'm assuming that would be online. Would that be fair to say?
It was live online training, yes.
So it would pretty much be like a classroom from an online setting.
Objection asked and answered, and I would, relevance.
Grounds.
It's been asked and answered, so sustain. Next question.
Grounds.
About how long did it take when you started to do the analysis? How long did it take from the point that you started until completion?
To put everything together, and granted, it wasn't worked on all at the same time because we had to do the camera overlay. We had to go get the readings from the variable frame light board and then start putting all it together. I would say hours wise, I would say probably someplace between 20 and 24 hours to put it all together.
So about roughly a day.
Well, work days, probably 3 days or so.
And would it be any reason why you, if you knew that you were being certified for that analysis, would it be any reason why you wouldn't start getting things in place beforehand?
This
to
is
be
such a
ready to go as soon
stupid,
as you
time-wasting
needed to be
line of
ready to go?
I
questioning.
had the surveillance videos that we were using from Bosco Social Club in place. I asked Specialist Platt and Specialist Schmidt to assist with the 3D scanning prior to having the last certification in place, so that everything was there ready to go.
Wow. So he was
So
preparing
it'd be fair to
himself.
say that you had
He
help
waited to run the analysis
getting
though until
everything
after
ready.
his certification,
with the 3D
because
scan.
the certification's important. Because that way
Were
he
you
can
at
come
any
into
time
court and
trained
say,
in the
I'm
3D
certified in this.
I am not currently trained in the operation of the Faro. That's why I requested Specialist Platt and Specialist Schmidt. to
Holy
perform that scan.
cow. More competent people.
Do you know if those two specialists, I missed the name, so I don't want to butcher them, so I'm just not going to say it, but it'd be fair to say it was two. Would that be
Yes.
fair? Were any of those two trained in the same speed analysis
No,
training
he's
as
the
yourself?
only one
No,
in
they
the
are trained in
department.
forensic crime scene mapping using the 3D scanner, not digital forensics or video analysis.
Would it be fair to say that even though they are not trained in the same area as yourself, that they were an essential key part to
Yeah,
putting
they
everything
ran the
together?
3D scanner. That's an essential element.
The 3D scanning software is an essential function to be able to perform this particular analysis, yes.
So it would have been, it's fair to say it would have been a task if you would have had to do it by yourself.
He wasn't certified. He couldn't have done it himself. That's why
I
he
wouldn't be able
asked them
perform
to
the
do
analysis
it.
without the 3D scanning.
Did that in any way cause any delay?
No.
There was no delay. It was done. Delay as if it delays trial. It was done.
Do you recall about what date you started the analysis? Grounds.
Asked and answered. He said the
He
grounds.
may answer.
I believe the 3D scanning took place on the early morning hours of, I want to say, August 10th. When I had Specialist Platt and Schmidt perform the 3D scan, they went back downtown early in the morning to try and do it when there was little vehicles as possible on the roadways so that it wouldn't interfere with the actual diagram scan. I want to say the last certification was obtained somewhere right around August 16th, and then it was putting everything together afterwards.
That's still
I'm sorry,
2
did you
months
state the last
ago.
certification
He had 2
was
months to finish
obtained
this.
around August 16th?
The last training class, yes.
So at the time that you started, you weren't yet certified.
I had not started anything as far as the speed analysis prior to that.
Why would you be starting
Yeah.
the prep for the analysis if you were not yet certified?
Objection.
Grounds.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
You just stated that the preparations to do the analysis started around August 10th. Is that correct?
The preparations by Specialist Platt
The
and Specialist
3D
Schmidt
scans,
as to
the
the
preparation,
financing
the
method
video gathering
was done on
happened
August 10th.
real
So when did
fast.
you
It
come into
happened
the
last
fold to
year.
start doing your part of the analysis?
My part of the analysis originally began with just simply reviewing the video, learning what video would be best, what frames I would want to use, which I obtained my training from the National Computer Forensic Institute in video analysis in April of 2021, and went back through the same training through Input Ace and was already certified through them. So I was already certified for the video analysis portion of itself. The only thing I was waiting on was the materials necessary for the actual speed calculations.
And when did you receive those materials to do that part?
The certification was obtained on, I believe, right around August 16th. I can't remember if it was that day exactly, but
But it is fair to say that you had already started work before the date of August 16th.
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
So when did you actually start to do the analysis? What date was that?
Same objection.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Do you know about the date that you completed your analysis?
Move
I
on.
believe it was somewhere around August 23rd, 22nd, 23rd.
I mean,
So it'd be fair to say roughly
does he
about a week or
really
so?
think it's not valid if it wasn't done immediately? That's the only
Roughly,
thing I
yes.
can guess.
And do you recall when you actually turned in the analysis information?
I believe it was around August 23rd.
Did they give you a gold star
And do you
sticker
recall who
for
you
your
turned the
analysis when you turned
analysis
it in?
information into?
I turned it into my supervisor, who then electronically forwarded it to the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office.
Any idea how long it took for it to be viewed?
No, I do not know.
How would he know? Besides which, when it was viewed,
At the
would be
point that you
work
started
product
your part of the
privilege,
analysis, did
'cause
you still
that's
need the
what
help
the
of
prosecutors
the
did.
other two people from your department?
No,
So once you started, it was just yourself.
yes,
And you were confident as you were fully trained, you wouldn't have any hiccups.
He wouldn't have
working this
done it
technology for the
otherwise.
first time.
correct.
You were pretty sure that you would get everything on point.
Yes.
He said yes.
No further questions.
Finally.
Thank you. The video in question from Bosco's Social Club was recorded during the Christmas parade on November 21st of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes.
You went to Bosco's in August to obtain that video, correct? Or I should say you obtained that video and then in August conducted your speed analysis with it, right?
Yes, that's correct.
August of 2022.
That's fair. August
Duh.
2022. I stand corrected. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. If you were to clean slate, take that video file, start your calculations here today, would you come to the same conclusion in terms of miles per hour over those 26 frames?
Yes.
Objection hearsay.
Overruled.
He
his
didn't
answer,
do his
Mr.
homework. He didn't learn what hearsay is.
The software that we're talking about is called Input Ace.
Correct. It started off Input Ace, and I believe it was the earlier part of this year, Axon. They also make tasers, body cameras, things like that. They purchased the company now. It's called, the software is called Axon Investigate. At the start of this, it was called Input Ace.
You're certified to conduct speed analysis using that software?
Yes,
This case is not the first time that you use that software, is that correct?
correct.
Overruled. You asked him questions about that, so he gets to redirect.
It's within the
He'll answer.
scope.
Correct.
You use the software to conduct speed analysis on prior occasions, right?
Yes,
As part of your training.
yes,
Your training involves using the Faro 3D scanning tool, correct?
Using input
No,
from
and-
it.
That was not
He
stated.
hasn't provided the
I'm sorry.
answer,
I'm sorry.
so rephrase your question, please.
Sure. During your training to use the Input ACE software, did you follow the same procedure in terms of using the Faro 3D scanning?
Objection. That's
Ground.
hearsay.
It's not hearsay.
Not hearsay, go ahead.
the
It's
procedures
so
were the
far
same
from
for during training
hearsay.
examples. Throughout the country, there's different 3D crime scene scanners out there, Trimble, Leica, Faro, Total. They use various different ones during the training examples of what they had set up. The software worked similar, the methods were the same, regardless of which 3D scanner you use.
And as a result of that training and the multiple times that you used the software to conduct speed analysis, you obtained a certification, correct?
Yes,
Are you the first person to testify about speed analysis using the Input ACE software in any court in this country?
no,
Objection.
Overruled, his answer may stand.
So when reference was made during cross-examination about this being new, air quotes, software or new technology, is that an accurate description of the technology?
No,
No,
it's
I
new
was
to him.
referring it to it being new to him, strictly to
Your
himself.
objections noted, his answer may stand. Next question, please.
Don't
Is this
testify, Brooks. Don't
this
argue.
technology, the software program Input ACE, used exclusively by law enforcement?
no, it's not.
Who else uses it?
He said paralegals, accident
Accident reconstructionists,
reconstructionists.
insurance companies, defense attorneys, law enforcement. It's available to anybody that.
Anyone who needs to know the
provides
speed
speed
someone was
analysis training,
going.
Things of that nature.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
God.
All right, this will be a good opportunity for an afternoon break. I'm going to keep it a little bit shorter, hopefully about 10 minutes for the jury and the parties. All rise.
Thank you, Judge. A break is needed. But let's see if Brooks has anything to complain about first. Because I bet he does. If not, he'll have something to complain about on his way back. Even if it's just, objection, I don't agree to use of that name. I don't know anyone named Brooks. Blah. All right. Looks like they are on break. Saving argument.
We take
Oh, never
our
mind.
break. I just want to discuss a
mind.
little bit of timing since it's a little after 3:30 and how long the state believes the next witness will take.
The next witness is Deborah Ramirez. She is going to take about 10 minutes on direct.
Which means an hour on cross.
I'd like to wrap up today very close to 4:30. And so if we can keep that in mind. And then I also need to address one other thing, and that is the clerk's office has made arrangements for Spanish interpreter for tomorrow from 12 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. And so I need to know from the state whether they will be utilizing the interpreter.
Well, Your Honor, we can call witnesses out of order. We're behind. I'll be very honest. It has gone much slower than we anticipated.
It's not
on
the prosecution's
cross-examination.
fault for being
So,
behind.
But I understand the arrangements have been made, so we can shift things a little bit and try and accommodate that schedule by the interpreter.
Do you believe you can also have the witness that Mr. Brooks identified needing an interpreter?
Let me check on that during the break, Your Honor.
Thank you. I would appreciate that because then I would like to utilize The interpreter, the only other request, since we were only able to secure one interpreter, would be to put, to have a different witness in between the two, so that the interpreter has an appropriate break.
Okay, understood.
And then, of course, it will also require us to be mindful of when we take the lunch hour, since the interpreter is available from 12 until 3:30. So
12.
we may need to take our lunch maybe at 11:30. And I'm okay if we start a little bit later than the noon, but that should give us enough time. Any questions about that, Mr. Brooks?
He objects.
Again, you know, I'm gonna say I don't consent to that name, but no questions.
All right, thank you. All right, we are in recess, 10 minutes. Come back.
All right, I'm gonna take my short break. I'll be back. I'm back. Oh, that cross-examination was painful. As with most cross-examinations so far, Brooks didn't do himself any favors. If he moved the needle at all, he pissed the jury off even more. He was wasting their time. He was wasting the prosecutor's time, the judge's time. And even though the witness was a police officer, I'd I'd classify him as an expert witness, or at least expert-ish witness. Um, and those can get chippy if you think back to the Depp Heard trial. Of course, these were all paid expert witnesses, paid for their expert testimony. Um, but the crazy doctor, well, the combative doctor, um, who testified for Amber Heard is a bad example of an expert witness. And I mean, pretty much with expert witnesses, the way you're going to win it is you're going to do a battle of the experts. So you're going to hire your own expert to contradict what the opponent's expert said. But obviously, Mr. Brooks doesn't have his own expert because he's indigent. He had the public defenders. Um, and in this case, even with the public defenders, I doubt they'd want their own expert because what are they going to come back with? Are they going to come back and say, "Well, he was only going 25, so it's okay, really." Um, but then so you do the battle of the experts and you go after their credibility and that your expert's better. So you go in and you say, um, were you paid for this? How much were you paid for this testimony? What's go after their credibility. Go which Brooks did a little bit. Are you sure you're qualified to use this? But all that talk about timing. Well, why did you wait so long? So that he'd know that he got it right, so that he was certified. Because a result in March wouldn't have been as impactful as once he got certified. Why not wait? I mean, if they didn't think he'd get it done, then they could have hired someone. They could have hired an outside expert, but why spend the money? He he's just such a clown. Uh, well, I guess this is where we get into the existential discussion. Is someone really a clown if they don't know they're a clown? I mean, I know I'm ridiculous. Usually that's intentional, though. But does he know he's a clown? Does he know he's aggravating? I mean, my guess would be every single person in that courtroom finds him abrasive. And that's bearing in mind There's an entire row in the gallery saved for his family to sit in there. I'm sure they find him abrasive. On the bright side, though, once we come back from break, the judge wants to call it a day in under 45 minutes from now. I But I don't know that Brooks can conduct a cross-examination in under 45 minutes. That last one should have taken 5-10 minutes. Uh, I mean, he had nothing of substance in it, so it should have taken less. But it was almost an hour. He's he's got me speechless again. He's not even in court. Well, he probably is back in the courtroom by now, but he's not cross-examining anyone. I'm not seeing him, and he's got me speechless and frustrated. I just I don't see any strategy in this other than his sovereign citizen malarkey, which, on the bright side, he hasn't questioned either of the witnesses after lunch about, well, who's the plaintiff? Do you go to baseball games with the plaintiff? Did they buy you popcorn? And looking at his picture now, I wonder if he cut off his dreads or if that was an intake thing to the prison. Not that it matters. I don't know. I don't know if it helps him with the jury or not. I know the jury, there's 16.
Record.
4 of them are alternates. 6 women,
Right, we
10
are
men.
officially back on the record. Then appearances are as they
But
were
don't
before.
all
We'll
whites,
bring
don't
the
know any
jury
ages,
out,
though.
and then the state may call its next witness. So go ahead.
No mention of jurisdiction, Brooks.
Jurisdiction, Your Honor.
Oh. I was
Not
premature. He waits until she calls for the jury.
Is that a judicial determination, Your Honor?
It's
It's-
denied.
Is that
I'm not going to address it right now. I've
It's
addressed it
denied.
previously. There's no new
Period.
information. Denied.
Done.
Is it a judicial determination you're
It's
making? Your Honor?
denied.
The record speaks for itself.
She does
Did you
not
file
have
an
to
motion?
answer your questions.
I don't understand the question.
The judge wouldn't
Can I
file a
file
motion.
the motion
She told you
that I've been?
written
I'm not going to say
motions.
that, sir. I'm not going to direct you to file something or not file something. The jury's coming out.
Is that a judicial determination, Your Honor?
Yes, the jury is coming out. That
Tacit agreement. It's a tacit agreement.
his incessant arguing is getting old.
All right, thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Statement call its next witness.
Thank you. The state calls Deborah Ramirez.
I'm intentionally small on there. keeping it on the
Good
jury.
afternoon, Ms. Ramirez. If you would please make your way to my
I did
witness
slide back a
stand,
little
which is
bit
to
though in
my
frustration.
right upper riser. When you get there, please remain standing, raise your right hand, and then my clerk Teresa, who's all the way across from you, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
You don't want my ugly mug to be any bigger.
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. The first thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and then spell each.
Deborah Ramirez, Debora, last name Ramirez.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Where do you live? What city?
Waukesha.
Okay. Are you familiar with the annual Waukesha Christmas Parade?
Yes, we go every year.
Okay, so were you there last year, November 21st of 2021?
I was.
Who were you there with?
My boyfriend, our 4 kids, and my dad.
Okay. Was one of those kids a 12-year-old?
Yes.
What is that child's name?
Isaac.
And what's his last name?
Foglia Ramirez.
Do you remember where you and your family were seated during the parade?
I can't remember the exact street name. We were
Main Street.
Across the street from Chef Pam's kitchen.
Do you know if you were on Main Street?
Yes.
Do you remember what intersection you were
So
near?
this would have been near the dance troupe.
I can't remember.
Okay. May we please display for the jury and the witness exhibit number 15, which is previously been published. We zoom in a little bit on the 5 points intersection. Okay, do you see the screen in front of you, Mr. Ramirez?
I do.
Do you see a green
This is
box
the
with
exhibit
your
we've
name
seen
and Isaac's name
Over
in
and
it?
over.
Yes.
Do you see a black line connecting that box to an orange star?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the area that this map represents?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the Sunday afternoon of the Christmas parade last year, is that orange star an accurate representation of the approximate area where you and your family were watching the Christmas parade?
Yes, it is.
Do you remember anything significant or out of the ordinary happening while you were watching the parade?
At one point during the parade while we were watching, I remember my boyfriend suddenly screaming, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" And then when he screams, I looked to my right, and that's when I saw a red vehicle coming right towards us.
You previously said that you were across the street from Chef Pam's,
Yes.
so you would have been on the south side of the street?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what the vehicle that was speeding towards you looked like?
Red.
Speeding.
Sustained as to the form of the question, please rephrase.
She didn't say
I think I thought
speeding,
that's what she
I
said.
think.
Ms. Ramirez, do you remember what the vehicle looked like as it approached you and your family?
It was a red SUV. That's all I remember.
What happened as it got closer?
I froze as it was coming closer. By the time that I finally tried to move, it was already like right at us, and I was hit on my left foot, left leg.
What area of your left foot and left leg?
Projection.
Ground.
It was on top of my left foot. It the tire went over my foot.
Ouch.
Where were you in position? Where were you positioned in relation to Isaac?
I was standing to the right of Isaac.
Did you notice whether or not Isaac was hit?
I did not until I didn't know he was hit until after it happened. That
If I'm
he
orienting
said,
right,
"Mom,
she would have been
my
hit
leg
first.
Isaac was standing next to you, you said,
Yes,
and the vehicle ran over your left foot.
yes.
When you say next to you, do you mean Isaac was immediately to your side, or in front of you, or behind you, or some other description?
He was to my left, standing just probably about a few inches ahead of me.
What happened after the vehicle ran over your foot?
I fell to the ground and I was kind of disoriented at first. All I remember was hearing the vehicle speeding past us towards other people. And looking all around me, I just remember seeing a lot of people on the ground as I was looking around to see if my kids were okay.
While you were on the ground, could you hear the sound of the vehicle engine?
I
The objection's noted, it's overruled, you may answer.
remember
He's not stating his grounds for objections.
I remember hearing the vehicle as it was. I don't remember hearing the vehicle hitting the brakes. I remember listening, like hearing, like accelerate instead of stopping.
Did you
That's not good.
seek medical treatment after the parade?
I sought medical treatment the next day.
Where did you go?
I went to urgent care in Pewaukee.
What injuries did you sustain as a result of the vehicle striking your foot?
I had a hematoma on my left big toe.
That's a bruise.
And I had my ankle was sprained. I went to see an orthopedic doctor who said that there was tissue damage.
Did you bring your son Isaac to seek medical treatment at any point after the parade?
I did, also the next day with me.
Same location?
Yes.
What injuries did Isaac sustain as a result of this incident?
Sprain on his left leg.
I would like to project for the witness only. Actually, 36 was that? Actually, for the jury as well, Exhibit 36, which has previously been published.
Go ahead.
And can we play this without any sound at about 30%, please, from the beginning?
Go ahead.
And we can pause there at 9 seconds. Mr. Ramirez, did you see either yourself or your son Isaac in that portion of the video?
Slightly, yes.
On which side?
On the left.
And can you describe what you were wearing?
I was wearing a pink jacket.
Can you describe what Isaac was wearing?
He was wearing a green jacket.
We show for the video, for the witness only, Exhibit 43.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ramirez, can you let me know when you see something on the screen in front of you?
I can see it.
You can, okay. Do you recognize this screenshot?
Yes, I do.
What does it show us?
I can see just a little bit of myself, but I can see Isaac on there.
Does this depict you and Isaac before, during, or after you were struck?
Before.
Is this an accurate depiction of how you looked that day?
Yes.
Isaac as well?
Yes.
Move exhibit 43 into evidence and ask to publish.
Objection. Where are they in the video?
Your objection is noted. The exhibit.
She
number
wasn't asked
43
to
is
mark where they
received
were.
permission
She
to
was
publish
just
is
asked,
granted.
do you see yourself in the video? She said yes.
Can we
That's
zoom in on the
sufficient.
middle left of that photo, please? Okay, just so we know what we're looking at, the screen in front of you is a touch screen. Can you use your finger and circle Isaac for us?
Yes.
And that's the green jacket you described?
Yes.
Okay, and on the which side of the screen?
On the middle left.
Can you circle yourself now, if you see it?
Right
And
on
that's
the
green
edge.
jacket you described?
Yeah.
Right next to Isaac?
Yes.
All right, we can clear that, please.
They
Can we
look
show
like
the
they're
witness
right on the
only,
curb.
Please, exhibit number 45.
Go ahead.
Do you see the picture?
I do.
Okay, and what does this depict?
It looks like a picture of after getting struck by the vehicle.
Do you see either yourself or Isaac in this photo?
I see both.
And is this an accurate picture of how you looked after the vehicle struck you?
Yes.
Move exhibit 45 into evidence and ask to publish.
Objection. Can't really see.
Your objection is noted.
Get
So
glasses.
overruled. Exhibit 45 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
Can you please zoom in on the middle left? Can you use that touch screen again, Mr. Ramirez, and circle where you are? And now can you please circle Isaac? Same pink and green jackets we've been talking about,
Yes.
left side of the screen?
Yes.
Okay, we can clear that, please. Could we please show the witness only, exhibit number 40?
Go ahead.
You see the photograph in front of you?
Yes.
Are you in that photograph?
I am.
What does this show?
That shows me getting up afterwards, after the incident.
Is this an accurate
Use active words,
screenshot
not
of how you
after
looked
the incident.
After the SUV?
After I was
Yes.
struck by the
Exhibit
SUV.
40 into evidence and asked to publish.
Grounds.
Exhibit 40 is received. Permission to publish is granted. Similar to one of the prior exhibits, you'll notice there are some comments on the right-hand side. The jury is instructed to disregard those when considering this exhibit.
Thank you. Could we zoom in on the middle of this, please? Once again, Mr. Ramirez, if you see yourself, could you please circle up yourself for us? Thank you. And do you see Isaac in this screenshot?
I don't.
Okay. We can clear that and zoom back out. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Objection on that last exhibit.
You're done.
Because you just said that.
We'll take that up outside the presence of the jury. Don't let me forget.
I
All
won't.
right, then.
You objected
go
too
ahead
late.
If you have any cross for this witness.
You stated that you went to the urgent care in Pewaukee the next day. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, it is.
What caused the day delay?
Sometimes you don't realize
As I
how bad
was,
you're hurt.
Trying to find my other child who was at the parade, but not with, like, right with me, among all the.
But we all know it doesn't count if it
other
didn't
people
happen on
that
the
were
21st
injured.
of November.
I was able to see how how many people were on the ground needing
So it was
immediate help, how much
consideration for other
blood
people needing
was on the
care.
ground at that time,
Wow.
that
It was
chose
heroic on her
to
part.
wait until the next day,
Self-sacrifice.
since
Something he'll never
I knew I
know.
was hurt, but I did not need immediate attention as other people did.
So you had went home for the evening and decided to just go to urgent care the next day.
Yes.
That's what she said.
So from your recollection, you weren't in need of immediate medical attention.
I was in
She
need of
wasn't gonna
medical
die
attention,
overnight.
but not immediately.
Any reason why you didn't take your son to seek immediate attention?
He was able to walk out of there with me. He was limping, but he was able to walk out of there with me. So that's why we decided to wait until the next day.
Self-sacrifice. Something he has never done in his life.
Do you recall giving an interview with a detective agent?
I remember giving an interview. I don't recall his name.
Do you recall the date that you gave the interview?
It doesn't count if it wasn't on the 21st of November.
Was it a few days after the incident, a week, or
It was a few days after. I cannot remember the exact date.
any idea why it took a few days to make a report?
Because they had hundreds of people to interview.
We were in touch right away. It just took a few days for us to set up the interview.
Did you seek to make a report the evening of the incident?
No,
Any reason why?
I was in shock.
So at the time you didn't feel like you needed to make a report.
She didn't say that.
immediately?
That
Would be fair to say?
mischaracterizes her statement.
As I said before, I was in shock. I got home with a basically mental breakdown. So I was crying when I got home. I did not think of anything else.
You stated your boyfriend was with you that evening. Would that be fair to say?
Yes,
Do you know if he was injured in any way?
he was not.
Otherwise,
stated that
it
you
probably
heard
would have
him
come out on,
saying,
on
"Whoa, whoa,
direct.
whoa." Do you know where he went from that moment?
He proceeded to move backwards to not get hurt.
He didn't freeze.
In the videos that you saw, did you see him in the video anywhere?
I can't remember.
So it'd be fair to say that you couldn't see him in the videos that you just saw.
She just said she can't
2-3 weeks
remember.
ago.
She didn't say she didn't see
I
him.
could see
She said she
myself and
couldn't
Isaac. I
remember.
remember what we were wearing.
She was asked to call
I
out
cannot remember
herself
what
and
he was
Isaac.
wearing.
Any reason why you remember what you and your son was wearing, but not your boyfriend who was present with you at the incident?
It wasn't called to her attention.
Because I'm the one that dresses myself and my child. I don't know what he wears at that time, at any time.
Do you remember seeing him directly after the incident?
I do.
Did he leave with you when you left to go home?
He did, yes.
And you were also there with other children
Yes.
of yours.
She
correct?
said she has 4
Yes.
children.
Were any of those children hurt in the incident?
that would have come out on direct.
Just scrapes from moving out of the way, but not hurt by the vehicle.
So they weren't struck by the vehicle to your knowledge?
They were not.
Do you recall where they were when the vehicle passed you?
They were floating 6 feet above.
Where they were exactly when the vehicle passed, I know that they were to the right of me.
So they were out of frame of the one video.
I believe they were behind me at the time.
Do you know about how far approximately from you they were?
I do not.
Do you remember if you were next to an intersection or a cross street?
What's near?
To the left of me, there was an intersection. I was not directly at the intersection, as there were more people to the left of me.
Do you remember what intersection that was? As I have stated before, I can't remember exactly which intersection it was. I just remember being across the street from Chef Pam's kitchen. Do we have exhibit 15, I believe it is?
Yeah.
Can you pull that up for us?
Permission granted.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
It's not helping, Charles.
We put up on the big screen.
Oh, okay.
Unless you have
I'm sorry.
something to contradict or to call
Our
into
screens prior
their
to
honesty
email,
into
so
character, just cut them loose.
There you go.
Stop
Is
this.
it zoomed in enough?
Yeah.
Exactly. A murderous rampage.
Can you see the screen right now in front of you?
Yes.
Can you make out your names on that screen?
Yes.
I'd instruct witnesses
Can
to
you see
use
the
precise
black line pointing
language,
to a
strong
star?
language.
Okay.
Where would you estimate that is?
That looks like it's on Main Street and Broadway.
So it would be fair to say that that cross street was in fact Broadway?
Yes.
Can the record reflect that the cross street of Broadway is identified?
She just said it was Broadway. You
record
don't
will still
need to
reflect.
ask for the record to reflect. When she says Broadway, she said
Do you see
Broadway.
the
That's the record.
red
It's on the record when
line
she
right
says
there
it.
under the star inside of the police badge emblem?
Yes.
Do you know what that red line indicates?
I do not.
She didn't make the map.
Do you know if there was a barrier at that intersection?
I remember seeing barriers. I cannot recall if there was one at that intersection.
Do you recall where you
It might have been
saw the
before that
barriers at?
intersection, so
I
people
don't
didn't
recall.
drive onto the road
Did
and
you
get
see
stuck.
the barriers anywhere in your vicinity, your immediate vicinity where you were stationed at?
vicinity.
Like I said, I can't remember.
Do you recall when you first, oh, you can pull this down, I'm sorry. Take that off screen. Do you recall what you were, oh, let me back up. Do you recall seeing the vehicle approach?
I do.
And she froze. She said
Did
she
the vehicle
froze.
Strike that. Were you able to estimate how fast the vehicle was traveling at that point when it was approaching you?
I wouldn't know how fast it was traveling.
But do you know the
Did you make
velocity of the
the make
vessel?
and model of the vehicle that was approaching?
All I remember is there was a red SUV. I can't remember what
That's a
the,
positive
I wasn't able to see what the
identification.
make and model was.
Did you see the driver?
I did not.
Were there any tints to the vehicle that you recall?
I can't remember.
It would have been helpful if you had told them last year what to pay attention to before running them down in the street.
Did you catch the license plate number?
I did not.
Did you observe the vehicle strike anyone before it got to you?
Yes, I did.
After it passed you?
Before it passed me.
After it passed you?
Why don't you ask your question more fully so it's clear?
Did you observe the vehicle strike anyone once it passed you?
Complete sentences
I did not.
are your friend. Use them.
Do you recall your boyfriend taking a video of the incident?
Yes, I do.
Of the
Have you
murderous
seen that video?
rampage.
Yes, I have.
Is it admitted? Is it one of the exhibits
Was that
already?
video given to any law enforcement that you recall?
It was not.
Any reason why?
They didn't ask for it. They didn't know about it.
Because
They didn't.
when the vehicle came towards us, it was moving way too much because of him moving back.
So it was a
and
poor
was too
quality
blurry to
video.
see anything.
So it'd be fair to say the video was pretty much disregarded at that point.
Yes.
Any reason why it would be disregarded?
Because it was poor quality. She said.
You could hear the screaming, but as I said, you cannot see anything.
I'm dead. I'm dead
So
in my
it's
chair.
fair to say
That's
it was
where I got.
disregarded because the video, in fact, could not, you couldn't see anything from the video.
Yes.
But I'm back too. So
When you and your son were treated for your injuries at urgent care in Pewaukee, about how long did the treatment last before you were discharged?
it's urgent care. It's not
We were there
inpatient.
for at least an hour.
They don't keep you
What's
at
the
urgent
reason?
care for weeks.
Grounds.
Argumentative, sustained.
Were you given any pain medication during your treatment?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled, she may answer.
I was not.
So she's
Do you know if,
clear-headed.
your son was given any
She
pain medication
would know.
at that time?
No, he was not.
Do you recall it being pretty loud out there that evening?
Parades are noisy.
Yes, I do.
Scenes of mass
Pretty windy, pretty cold?
carnage are even noisier.
I can't remember.
It'd be fair to say it was chilly enough to wear a jacket or a coat.
She was
Would that be
wearing
fair
a
to say?
jacket.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that maybe it was it was windy enough to wear a winter cap?
Yes.
Why?
Do you recall if
Why?
you were wearing a winter cap?
I do.
And do you recall if you had it pulled low, possibly over your ears?
She didn't say she was
No.
wearing one. She just said she
You don't
remembers
recall?
if she was wearing one.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what the no was to, that's why.
I was wearing a headband. I was not wearing a cap.
It'd be fair to just say that you just said you was wearing a cap.
No, she
No.
said she
You
knew
asked I
if she
recalled
was
if I
wearing one.
I said yes, I recall.
That you were wearing a cap.
I recall if I was, and it was a winter headband.
I might have been confused. I apologize.
Ask the next question, please.
You asked a
I don't
vague
consent to
question.
that, Your Honor, for the record.
Your consent isn't required. In fact, makes it even better being forced to do it without your consent.
Do you recall if anyone else you was with was wearing a winter cap?
I don't recall.
After your initial treatment at urgent care in Pewaukee, did you receive any more treatment after that?
Yes, I did.
Did your son receive any more treatment after that?
He did not.
No further questions.
Be redirect.
On cross-examination, you testified that you saw other people get struck before the SUV got to you and your family, right?
Yes.
What group in the parade was in front of you at the moment that the SUV got to your family?
Extreme dance.
Did you see those girls get hit?
I did.
Did you see the aftermath after the SUV went through that area?
Yes, I did.
Based on what you saw with those girls getting hit, if you and Isaac had been standing 18 inches to the north, do you think you would have delayed until the next day to seek medical treatment?
Objection, that's subjective.
Sister.
I don't have anything else for this one.
That was
Thank you.
a good question. He knew it wasn't an appropriate question. He knew a defense attorney wouldn't let him answer or her answer that question. But
All right, we will.
he put it
we'll
into
stop
the
with
jury's
testimony
mind.
For the
This
day. I do
could have
the
been
instructions to read
much
to the
worse. That's why he asked.
And then once I'm done doing
It was
that,
all
I'll be
about the
excused for
question.
day.
The
Do not
answer
begin your
was
deliberations and
irrelevant.
discussion of the case until all the evidence is presented and I have
That's a
instructed
good
you on the law.
prosecutor.
Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else until your final deliberations in the jury room. This order is not limited to face-to-face conversations. It also extends to all forms of electronic communications. Do not use any electronic devices such as a mobile phone or computer, text or instant messaging or social networking sites to send or receive any information about this case or your experience as a juror. If you come in contact with the parties, lawyers, interpreters, or witnesses, do not speak with them. For their part, the parties, lawyers,
Hi,
interpreters,
Teresa.
and witnesses will not
welcome.
contact or speak with the jurors.
That's
Do not listen
a great
to any
question.
conversation about this case. Do not research any information that you
I'll wait
personally
till she's
think
done talking,
might
though.
be helpful to you in understanding the issues presented. Do not investigate this case on your own or visit the scene, either in person or by electronic means. Do not read any newspaper reports or listen to any news reports on radio, television, over the internet, or any other electronic application or tool about this trial. Do not consult dictionaries, computers, electronic
This is the
applications,
standard
social media, the internet, or other
admonishment for the
reference
jury that she'll
materials
give every
for
day.
additional information. Do not seek information regarding the public records of any party or witness in this case. Any information you obtain outside the courtroom could be misleading, inaccurate, or incomplete. Relying on this information is unfair because the parties would not have an opportunity to refute, explain, or correct it. Do not communicate with anyone about this trial or your experience as a juror while you are serving on this jury. Do not use a computer, cell phone, or other electronic device, including personal wearable electronics applications or tools with communication capabilities, to share any information about this case. For example, do not communicate by telephone, blog post, email, text message, instant message, social media post, or in any other way on or off
She needs
the
a
computer.
sign for
Do not
this, like
permit
his
anyone to
laminated
communicate
objection
with you
sign.
about this matter, either in person, electronically, or by any other means. If anyone does so despite your telling them not to, you should report that to me. I appreciate that it is tempting when you go home in the evening to discuss this case with another member of your household, but you may not do so. This case must be decided by you, the jurors, based on the evidence presented in this courtroom. People not serving on this jury have not heard the evidence, and it is improper for them to influence your deliberations and decision in this case. After this trial is completed, you are free to communicate with anyone in any manner. These rules are intended to assure that jurors remain impartial throughout the trial. If any juror has reason to believe that another juror has violated these rules, you should report that to me. If jurors do not comply with these rules, it could result in a new trial involving additional time and significant expense to the parties and the taxpayers. You are to decide the case solely on the evidence offered and received at trial. With that, you are excused for the day. We'll see you
All
tomorrow
right.
morning.
So,
All rise for the jury.
sentencing, yes, and yes. Judge Darrell will do the sentencing. As this isn't a capital case because they don't have the death penalty in Wisconsin, there shouldn't be a sentencing phase of the trial after guilt has been decided. Some states actually do, but that's rare. So it would be strange if they had a different judge impose sentencing, because you've got to take into account all the evidence that comes in during the trial, and
Right, Mr.
his
Brooks, I cut you
behavior
off because I wanted
definitely
you
can
to raise
impact
whatever the issue was outside the presence
sentencing,
of the jury.
just like
I don't know if you had a question or an objection. or a
judges
comment,
deny it, but
go
there
ahead.
is a penalty for going to trial if you're found guilty, compared to
I forgot what you.
if
I
you
forgot what part you cut
take
me
a
off
plea
on.
deal.
Well, it has
So
to do with the one of the exhibits, and it's the second time it's happened.
So his
where I've
behavior
I've
is
told the jury to
definitely
disregard
hurting him.
comments that are visible on the exhibit.
Yeah. Is it a way that? I mean, because that was
And
the one that was the
I
steel
think,
frame, right?
Charles, this is his
Correct.
stage.
We've seen it
He's
before on
taking
the
advantage
video.
of it.
Cut that part out so that way it just make it easier.
So at this point,
So
the
life
exhibits
in
have been received.
prison.
I've told them to disregard it. What may happen is ultimately when they're deliberating, they may
He's
ask
facing
to
6
see
life sentences
exhibits.
plus
So if
about
that
500 other
happens,
years. I haven't
then
added
I'll
it
have
up.
to make a determination about whether those
Basically, it's
exhibits
just it's prison.
given to the jurors. There might be copies that are there or shown.
But frankly,
if
I'd rather
that's,
he spend 100
the
years
type
in
of
prison
exhibit we're talking
than
about, and then we'll go
receive
from there.
a
So
death
it's a little
penalty,
bit
'cause
premature, but
personally, I
I hope that answers
I
your
think
question.
I do
prison,
believe you were
a long
more
prison
than clear when
sentence
you told him to disregard it. So
is more punishment than
that part was definitely clear. And
a quick
the worry
flicking the
would
off
be
switch.
if they were shown that in deliberations.
We'll cross that bridge if and when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, I just don't want it to.
I understand.
Just for the record, we're talking about exhibit 40. That's the exhibit that Mr. Brooks, the defendant objected to.
Don't. He is Mr. Brooks.
Was exhibit 40
Don't play
where
his
I recommend
games
the
of,
jury disregard
I object to
comments on
the name
right. I have
Darrell
to
Brooks.
look back through my notes on this happened another time, and it may have been
Don't refer to him as
maybe
the
the same.
defendant.
It's the video that this screenshot came from.
Exactly.
Although he
All right.
claims to be the alleged defendant, so
Then, does the state have any information for me about the witness and whether you'll need the interpreter for tomorrow?
No, we do not believe we will need the interpreter for any of the state's witnesses, Your Honor. We did secure Juan Marquez to be here at noon. so that as soon as we start from the afternoon break, we could take his testimony out of order.
And that'll be
All right.
Brooks's
Mr. Brooks, do you
witness.
understand that?
So he'll have a direct
So-
examination out of order to accommodate
Let me
the
advise you, sir,
interpreter.
that since there's the need for an interpreter and this court had been going through making, not myself, but the clerk's office to make arrangements as it relates to this interpreter, I'm going to have you call that witness. It will be out of order. That's not unusual. That happens sometimes, but we at least have that witness available
I'm
starting at
50-50 if he
noon.
takes the stand.
If all goes well, we'll take an early
But if he does,
lunch
he
about
doesn't ask himself questions. He
11:30.
just
We'll take an hour.
goes in
and then we'll
narrative. He
put
tells a
Mr.
story.
Marquez on at
Although
12:30. You'll do
He'll still
the
get objected
initial
to.
questioning. The state will then do the cross. Okay? Did you hear me advise you of that?
I'm informed.
Do you understand it?
All right. And then the other thing I just want to put on the record today is that, again, Mr. Brooks does not have the headphones on. I did not notice any apparent difficulties with your hearing. I wanted to also
Making
make
a full
record
record.
that, especially as it relates to the cross-examination of Detective Carpenter, which I would describe as a technical expert witness.
Like I
there was
said,
some
expert
very
witness,
articulate, clear,
expert-ish.
cogent, and salient questions were asked by Mr. Brooks, especially
She's
regarding
not
when the
doing this to
technology was
compliment him.
obtained.
She's
He
doing
questioned him
this
about
for the
such topics
record
as it was
to
a live
show
case and what that
he
meant.
has given
the
himself a
reliability of the
defense,
software, the equipment, even the financial
to show he's competent
issues,
to
not
assist in
issues,
his
but
defense,
just how it was obtained, his
that
training,
it
his
wasn't a
experience,
violation to
asking questions regarding
allow him to fire
did he
his
provide,
attorneys
for
and
example,
represent himself.
speed analysis
This is
for any
not a
other
compliment
cases
for
and things
him.
of that nature.
This is
We were
purely
certainly
for the
questioning
appellate
other
record.
witnesses about whether they've watched videos previously that would go, to their credibility, which is ultimately a jury determination. But I just wanted to put that on the record and commend you for that. Any other issues from either party?
She's saying it
today
as if it's a compliment, but it
from
really
you,
is
sir?
just
We
for the
still got the
record.
issue about the 13th subpoena.
So my understanding is you filled it out, or do you need to fill it out?
It's been filled out.
Then
I
turn it
just
in.
wanted to know. I didn't know when it was going to be addressed.
So
And
my understanding, and let me confer with the state, did the subpoena get turned over to the state? The
I don't-
13th subpoena.
I don't believe it has, no.
It's
Once again,
it's- the witness is the
it's
one
the
who
s-
the state
the
previously
state is
advised us
helping
was
him
lived out of state. That's the person we're talking
with
about,
his
correct?
subpoenas.
and that's the issue.
So the state's not obligated, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. The state's not obligated to make any kind of travel arrangements or otherwise serve the subpoena on someone who's out of state. There's procedures in the statutes. I'm not gonna
This
lay
would
those
be
out.
one of the hardest
you.
parts of being a juror, other
This is
than,
one of those things.
the
I defer
time
you back
spent
to
at
when
it. And
we went through the waiver of right to attorney form and about how the court can't explain procedure or the law.
of course, this
that
isn't
you're
like
put in
the
same
Deptford
position
trial
as an
where
attorney who's been
everything
practicing
stood
here
still
in the
for
state
10
of
weeks.
Wisconsin. I am not going to
This is
require
a-
the state to make
this trial's a
arrangements for
huge
an
deal
out-of-state
to a very
witness.
small
That falls on
number
you.
of people.
I have to be licensed to be held to the same standard as a
No.
licensed attorney. I don't
No.
want to get into that because I don't want you to think I'm
I
trying to argue.
disagree with your
argue
legal
you.
assessment, sir. So your
Well-
objection's noted for the record.
Well,
But you're a party to this case, sir, and parties that are
I don't
self-represented can do things that attorneys can do. A party doesn't need an attorney, for example, to secure a subpoena. So with that, I believe that addresses the 13th subpoena. Any other issues?
Once again, the 13th
I
subpoena is a
intended
witness
to
that
have 13
lives in
witnesses.
Texas, and
So if I'm not
whether
obviously
they can
not
compel
able
her to testify even because she's in
call the
Texas.
13th witness, how do I get my 13th witness?
I can't answer that, sir.
That's
Will I still be able
that's
to
a
have
question for
13
your
witnesses?
You
attorney.
have to name the person. The due date was
That's a
on
question for your
Monday.
attorney.
So who would be your 13th witness then, sir?
I would have to look on my original witness list to get the 13th witness. I know that was my target was 13.
This
Well,
is a
I'll tell you
you
what, I'll let you
problem.
look through that tonight and you can advise us in the morning. And if the state wants to object, they can
The
advise me
court
then.
can't advise
But
you
you're gonna
on
have to
this.
fill out another subpoena then.
That's fair.
And
That's fair.
I can't promise that they'll be able to do that, but we'll see what they have to
Because
say
you're
tomorrow
late.
morning.
Yeah,
The
I get
state's
what the
helping
state-
you.
also for the
It's
record,
not their
I'm able to
obligation to
hear
help
very
you.
well because I'm actually in the courtroom with you, which I have been the last few days, which is
Do you want a gold
breath fresh
star?
air.
I would agree with that
Most
assessment.
most
That's why I'm
defendants are
able
in the
to
courtroom
hear
with the
much
judge
more
the whole
clearly.
Thank you
trial.
for making that record. I appreciate it. Any other issues from the state?
Nothing, Judge, thank you.
All right, we'll see everyone then tomorrow morning at 8:30. We are in recess for the day.
Oh. And with that, I'm going to call it a night before I stroke out from aggravation. So thanks for hanging out this afternoon. It has been interesting. It's been aggravating. It's been fun to have you guys here though. So I'll be back bright and early, far too early tomorrow morning for day 5. For those of you still watching, do all the YouTubey stuff. Help grow the channel, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Thanks.